What's up, everybody? Good morning and a very happy Friday to you all. DK Show coming to you from the TDS Sports Talk studios this morning. Big thanks for tuning in, however, wherever you're tuning in from. If it's on the radio dials, 105.1 FM, 790 AM, also online, stream it up, sportstalk1051.com. Get your smart devices, smart speakers, that app, and the video streams that are up and rolling right now on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, and X. What do we got on a game plan for us this morning? We got lots to hit up on. We're going to be doing little green and gold chats coming up here in just a little bit. But with the legal negotiation period coming up here on Monday, and we got, more potential trade options out there. Trey Hendrickson from the Bengals, another defensive end potentially available via trade and that. But we're going to play a little game that I need some class participation in. All right, coming up here in just a little bit. There's a lot of stuff I'm going to give you, okay? But it's with free agency starting up here beginning of next week. Want to play a little free agency game with you all. So pay attention here in a couple minutes because I got to give you quite a bit of info for you to make your picks. Okay, so that's coming up here in just a skosh, just a minute here. So we're gonna talk about that coming up here. We're gonna talk some Brewers with our good buddy Mr. Brandon Berg. Brewers last night, another spring training game and a solid outing from one Jacob Mizorowski last night. Dude went 3 innings, didn't give up a single run in his 3 innings of work last night. Struck out 3, no hits either. So the youngster who may not make the opening day roster, but I think there's a decent chance that we could see at some point this year. And if you don't, if you don't know a whole lot about him, definitely look it up. I mean, he's the tall, lanky, powerful pitcher, but definitely we're going to see him, I think, at some point. Last night too, 2 innings, 4 strikeouts, another young pitcher to kind of keep in the back of your memory bank there that potentially we could see Craig at some point, maybe this year, maybe next year, who knows? But not a bad night for a couple of younger pitchers for the Brewers last night in their 10-0 blanking of the Oakland Athletics. So we'll talk some Brewers and against Al Frelick. Nice night at the plate as well. Contreras is looking good. Mitchell, couple hits last night, 3 RBIs. So yeah, not bad performances. But we'll talk more Brewers in depth with Brandon Berg, who has definitely been busy on the local sports scene. So we'll do a local sports roundup with him a little bit later on. But last night for girls basketball, I mean, boy, we've got a really good shot for quite a bit of teams representing in Green Bay for state girls basketball. Memorial picking up a win. Rice Lake, Baldwin, Woodville, Elk Mound, Durant, Arkansas, McDonald Central. We're going to talk to Brandon about that one because he was at that game last night. Eau Claire, Emmanuel Lutheran, Owen Withia, Leva Strom, all 1 win away from advancing. Man, that's a lot of representation there. Then yesterday, too, we had state hockey going on. Boys side, Amory defeated Somerset St. Croix Falls to advance. And then on the girls side, the ECA Stars fell to the Central Wisconsin Storm. So local sports round, and then the boys basketball playoffs kick back up tonight. So lots of local sports to catch up with our expert, Mr. Brandon Berg, coming up a little bit later on this morning. We've got Inside the Training Room with Dr. Crow. We'll chat with him, catch up with him just past 7 o'clock. Didn't get a chance to catch up with him last week, so we'll definitely talk about some of the combine stuff, the Abdul Carter situation. Would he be? What would kind of be his recommendation with the whole foot injury? Should he have surgery? Should he not have surgery and such? So potential number 1 overall pick there. So we'll talk about that and more with Dr. Crow. We got cream of the crop. You can make your picks, cream of the crop. Send those on over either via the Shoe Doctor's bullpen line with a quick text, 715-830-1912. Or you can comment on the video streams with your picks for Cream of the Crop. We got a new game coming at you at 8:05 this morning. Pump the Brakes or Full Throttle, brought to you by AJM Automotive. So we'll hit that up at about 8:05. Got a couple of topics that we're going to throw out to you, and then you got to give us the feedback, your answers. Pump the Brakes or Full Throttle. That's coming at you at 8:05 again. We'll talk some Bucks. Bucks are going to be back in action tomorrow night against the Orlando Magic. But college basketball, the regular season starting to wrap up. I know we got some teams in conference play going on right now or wrapping up here a little bit. But the Badgers will wrap up their season tomorrow against Penn State. Marquette wraps up their season against, St. John's tomorrow. So I know last night UW-Milwaukee fell to Oakland in the Horizon League. So they're out of the tournament or out of the Horizon League tournament. Probably not going to get an at-large bid, even though they're 21-11 on this season. So, but we'll talk some college hoops as we wrap up the regular season this weekend. Then we got conference tournaments next week, and then bada bing, bada boom, Selection Sunday, and here we go. So, college hoops talk also coming at you. So, we're gonna hit on everything. We're gonna touch a little bit on everything here this morning. So, that's your game plan. Now, pay attention, Packers fans. Okay, pay attention here, because here's a lot of stuff I'm gonna throw at you, and I need some class participation here this morning. I need some class participation. So, with free agency set to begin next week, the legal negotiation period set to begin next week, I think a lot of us are expecting. I think everybody's hoping, but I think there's an expectation that Green Bay's going to make some moves next week. Different levels, maybe of a very, variations of expectations and such. Maybe some are expecting a lot of things to happen. Maybe some are maybe expecting one move. Who knows? But I think all of us are hoping something's happening. I think the expectation for a lot of us is something will happen, but what will that be? So we've thrown out all these different names and targets we would like to see Green Bay do, and there's been more added to the free agency pool after teams releasing players and such. So I've got 5 grouping options for you, Packers. You can't change them. This is what I came up with. So you got to select option 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And each option has a defensive lineman, defensive end, a corner, and a wide receiver. So each option has 3 players from those position groups, all right? And it's up to you, Packers fans listening right now, which option would you rather see the Packers do? Now, I don't think either one of these is probably going to happen, but it's nice to, on a Friday here leading up to free agency, have a little fun banter, have a little fun debate, and see where everybody's at on this one. Tried to spread it out here a little bit. So I'm going to go through the options. I'm going to probably have to go through it a couple times because I know it's a lot. I mean, we're talking about 15 players here, okay? And 5 different options. Option 1, defensive lineman Milton Williams, corner Byron Murphy, over from the Vikings, wide receiver Hollywood Brown, Marquise Brown. That's option 1. Option 2, or door 2, if you want to do a little game show theme here. Khalil Mack, Sante Samuel Jr., Amari Cooper. Option 3, Joey Bosa, Carlton Davis, Chris Godwin. Option 4, Deo Adabingo. I hope I didn't butcher that last name. Colts. He's a guy, if you haven't been, maybe he's not a very popular name out there, but he is a guy that a lot of NFL people kind of expect maybe to be that That dude that's going to get a big pay raise this year. Tom Pelissero just actually wrote about him here too. Defensive lineman from the Colts. Tre'Davious Ward, corner from the 49ers, and Devontae Adams. So Deo, Ward, Adams. Option 4. Option 5, Chase Young, DJ Reed, Stephon Diggs. All right, so those are your 5 options. I'll go through them again quickly before we take our break here. Think about it. Which option would you choose? You can't sub in and out. Okay, you got to pick one of these. It's just for fun. Option 1, Milton Williams, Byron Murphy, Hollywood Brown. Option 2, Khalil Mack, Asante Samuel Jr., Amari Cooper. Option 3, Joey Bosa, Carlton Davis, the corner from Detroit, very good at press man. Chris Godwin. Option 4, Deo Ward, the corner from the 49ers, and Devontae. And then option 5, Chase Young, DJ Reed, Stephon Diggs. Okay. Text me which option. Can only pick one. Can only pick one. Which option? Which door are you choosing? Behind door number what? Text those, comment on the video streams, all that good stuff. Which one would you go with? All right, let's have a little fun here this morning on this Friday morning as we kick things going, or kick up things and get things going here this morning before we're off for the weekend. So that's your game plan. Let's do it up. We'll take our first break and then dive into this. Make the cases for each option. Give me your thoughts. Which one would you go with if you could pick? Which one do you think is the best option? Let's have some fun. All right, we'll be back here in just a few minutes. When pain slows you down, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine gets you moving again. From sports injuries to joint pain and everything in between, their expert team provides cutting-edge care to keep you active. Whether you need physical therapy, surgery, or a customized treatment plan, they're here to help you heal faster and stronger. Don't let pain hold you back. Trust the specialists at Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine to get you back in the game. Got quite a few of you already texting in with your picks. A big thanks for that. We're going to get to, I'll just tell you right now, there is no leader in the clubhouse right now. We've got, we'll just go through a couple of them here quick. Mark says, door 2, all of durability. Cooper, route running, elite. Mac can play all 3 downs. Samuel isn't elite, but average. Kyle says, option 4, all day. Reunion with Devontae, solid young pass rushers, Zadarius 2.0. DK is going, or excuse me, G-Man, DK, I'm going with option 3, Joey Bosa. So if you are just joining us, I'm going to play a little game with free agency starting in the beginning part of next week for the NFL, for every, I was going to say for the Packers, but it's for every team out there. So think again, we're all hoping, some even expecting the green and gold to do something in free agency. Now, I did not include anybody like a DK Metcalf or a Trey Hendrickson, since they're not free agents. You'd have to trade for them. So this is just a free agency game, if you will. Okay, anybody who's available to sign a free agent contract. No trade players involved in this one. So no DK, no Trey Hendrickson, et cetera, et cetera. I'm giving you 5 options, 5 packages. Each option has a defensive lineman or a defensive end, a corner, and a wide receiver. You pick which one you would rather have, okay? Here are the options again. Option 1, defensive lineman, Milton Williams. A lot of people, I mean, even Greg Rosenthal has him as his updated number 1 free agent option on the market. Byron Murphy, corner from Minnesota. Hollywood Brown, wide receiver, spent this past year with the Chiefs. Option 2, Khalil Mack, Asante Samuel Jr., Amari Cooper. Option 3, Joey Bosa, Carlton Davis, the corner from Detroit, Chris Godwin, wide receiver, Tampa. Option 4, Deo, defensive lineman from the Colts. Ward, corner from the 49ers. Devontae, you know him. Option 5, Chase Young, DJ Reed, Stephon Diggs. Which option would you rather have? Can't sub in players or anything like that. Okay, it's just for a little fun here. Which option would you go with? Let's kind of break down these options here. So, option 1, Milton Williams, Philadelphia Eagles. Okay, I mentioned Greg Rosenthal from NFL.com. He does his top 101 free agents, and we talked about it a little bit earlier in the week and such, and went through some of his rankings, and they've been adjusted with who's, new players hitting the free agent market. A few days ago when we talked about it, Devontae wasn't on there, and now he is, so he's up there fairly high. But T. Higgins was number 1. T. Higgins isn't a free agent anymore because he's got the franchise tag. So he's got Milton Williams as his number 1 available free agent. Okay. Dude made himself a lot of money this year, especially when it came to the postseason and NFC Championship game and Super Bowl for his play. We know Green Bay has to upgrade their defensive line, has to upgrade their pass rush. I think the question is, does Green Bay view that they need to improve their interior defensive line play, or is it the defensive ends that they feel like they need more production from? That, to me, we don't know exactly what Goody in the front office is thinking. Do they feel like they are more confident or comfortable with Kenny Clark and Devontae Wyatt in the middle, or are they more confident, comfortable with Rashawn Gary and Lucas Van Ness on the outside. I think a lot of us fans probably know which one we're more comfortable in, but how Green Bay and how Goody views it might be a little bit different. But Milton Williams is going to cash in. He's going to get a big contract, huge contract. It's going to cost a little bit to get him. Then you got Byron Murphy, the corner from Minnesota, on this list. Still just 27 years old. A couple years ago, he signed a 2-year, $22 million deal with the Vikings. He's a Pro Bowler, can play a little inside, outside. You got Hollywood Brown, former first-round pick, Cardinals. Was it Cardinals? I think it was then he went to the Ravens and then the Chiefs, or was it vice versa? Anyways, he's on his third team right now. He's got speed, or he did have speed, but he's been dealing with some injuries, missed some time this year. Not the most consistent pass catcher. So could Green Bay maybe look at this like, okay, we're spending some money on Milton Williams, spending a little bit on Byron Murphy. We need a wide receiver. Maybe we can get a 1-year deal with a guy like Hollywood Brown, who's still in his 20s, age 28. That's option 1. Option 2, Khalil Mack. We'll start there with Khalil Mack. He's up there in age. We know that, 34 years old. However, Green Bay has brought in a 34-year-old edge rusher in the past, Julius Peppers. And you look at Khalil Mack, and he's available. I thought it was interesting to note that Greg Rosenthal said that he's a dude who can still disrupt the pocket and stop the run. However, don't ask him to play every down. So I thought that was an interesting note from Greg Rosenthal in his write-up about Khalil Mack. Don't ask him to play every down. Is that kind of a big deal for you? Or maybe you're like, okay, well, that fits Green Bay because obviously they want to do a rotation on the defensive line. So you rotate him in. And we know Green Bay was interested in Khalil Mack before he was traded to the Bears those years ago when Goody first started as general manager. But will age be a deterrent for this Packers team? Asante Samuel Jr., corner. Again, former teammate over there with the Chargers, right? Now, he's a guy that initially, I think when the season was over with, he was a guy that a lot of or he's a trendy name for Packers fans out there to be like, oh yeah, let's add him, let's bring him in for a corner. And the thing is with him, he's not the greatest tackler. He's not great at press coverage. That's what some of the scouting reports out there say. But he is a playmaker. And he's only 25. And if you could put him in the right situation, the right system, he could be a pretty good baller. But if Jeff Hafley wants to play press coverage like he says, is Asante Samuel a fit within that? That's the question mark. Can Hafley tap into something with Asante Samuel that maybe wasn't at a consistent level during his time with the Chargers? Then you got Amari Cooper, part of this group. Amari Cooper got traded to the Buffalo Bills this past season. And when you look at Cooper, I mean, he was drafted in 2015. So, I mean, a little bit of an older wide receiver there. And when you look at what he did this past season overall, 4 touchdown catches, 547 receiving yards. Postseason, though, he just had 8 targets, 6 catches for 41 yards. So, I mean, the production probably wasn't at the level that I think maybe Buffalo was hoping or expecting for when they acquired Amari Cooper. So, again, maybe with his age, maybe with, where he's at in his career, could you get him a little bit cheaper if you're spending more on a guy like Samuel and maybe a little bit more for a guy like Khalil Mack? Possibly. But you're providing, if Green Bay wants that veteran wide receiver, Amari Cooper checks that box, right? I mean, he is the veteran receiver that you could bring in and maybe kind of help play that mentor role for for this young group. And maybe you could get him a little bit cheaper compared to some of these. Although and again, I don't know what Amari's goal is at this point, but maybe he's at that point too. Like, okay, paydays maybe long gone at this point, but I want to be on a championship team. And to be fair, he was going through some injuries last year that probably took a dip in his production with the Buffalo Bills. So maybe you could try to get one more big season out of him for this upcoming year. So that's option 2. Option 3, Joey Bosa. So Joey Bosa, a lot of Chargers on this list. And the Chargers have a ton of cap space this year. I think they're top 3. But Joey Bosa is a guy the last couple of years. Last year, he played in 14 games, technically started 9, but he played in 14 games. The years before that, 2 years before that, he only played 14 games combined. So the big question is going to be, can he stay healthy? And he is 30. Maybe he's best suited at this point in time of his career as a situational pass rusher. I think a lot is going to depend on what's that money, what's that number going to be for Joey Bosa. That and how comfortable are you with his health, with his injury history the last couple of years. But when he's healthy and when he's on that field, he's been pretty productive. But if you get him, maybe it's a little bit cheaper than a guy like Milton Williams. Maybe it's a little bit cheaper than his teammate Khalil Mack. And then you can get some money for perhaps the top corner on the market, especially when it comes to press coverage, and that's Carlton Davis. Carlton Davis, who excels at man-to-man coverage. If you remember, spent some time with Tampa at the beginning of his career, was with Detroit this past year. He's got that prototypical size you like in a corner, 6'1", a little over 200 pounds. So could that, if you go with the Joey Bosa route, you got a guy maybe that's part of a rotation on the edge, but you get a little bit more moolah for a guy like Carlton Davis, and then boom, you've got your number one corner, a guy who excels at press man coverage, man-to-man coverage. It's like beautiful. And then you add in a wide receiver to that, Chris Godwin, who we know has put up some points, right? He's put up some numbers, but he's coming off of an ACL injury. Are you concerned about that? No question, though. Or he's coming off a dislocated ankle, because after he had a torn ACL too. So, I mean, he's gone through a couple of different injuries the last couple of years. On one hand, he suffered that injury earlier on in the season. So you're hoping at this point he's going to be ready to go. And he's still Chris Godwin Jr., who still puts up a bunch of numbers. So, I mean, when you're looking at it, it's like, okay, Chris Godwin, I can get him, and I can get Carlton Davis, and then I can get Joey Bosa. Maybe I put Joey Bosa part of a rotation to keep him a little bit more healthier. All right. Intriguing option. Option 4, Deo. He's not the most popular name out there when it comes to defensive linemen, but he is a guy that if you kind of do a little bit more research, he's a guy that a lot of at least the NFL insiders out there feel like he could be that guy that cashes in free agency. There's a lot of big names out there that we've thrown out there. But Dale, he's 25, was with the Colts this past year, had 50 quarterback pressures, one of 6 players with 30-plus quarterback hits and fewer than 20 starts over the last 2 seasons. Packers may be looking at this like 25. We're going to bet on the upside on this kid, and we're going to have him for a few more years. Is that the route they go? So he may not be the name that you recognize with like a Khalil Mack and the Joey Bosas and such, or the Chase Youngs. But the age and the upside and the arrow trending upward may be where Green Bay goes. And then you pair him with Ward, the corner coming out of the 49ers. He's looking for a fresh start. He's 29 years old. He had that awful tragedy last year, the death of his daughter. And he wants a fresh start away from California. And he was one of the better quarterbacks in football until this past year. And that's with the tragic death of his daughter. 49ers connection, system. You look at, that he started off actually with the Kansas City Chiefs for the first few years. Last 3 years he spent with the 49ers. But you look at systems like, okay, maybe a nice fit for Jeff Hafley. And then, I don't have to really kind of deep dive into the wide receiver option as Devontae. So, going with perhaps a young ascending pass rusher in Deo, a little bit of risk because maybe it's not a big sample size there. Ward, 29, looking for a fresh start. And then Devontae at the back end of his career. All right, option 4. And then option 5, I mentioned Chase Young. Chase Young's out there, former top pick with Washington. Injuries kind of maybe took a hit to the early part of his career. Spent a hot minute with the 49ers, was with the Saints this past year. Still fairly young. Maybe you can get him for another 1-year deal, 2-year deal. He reminds me of like the Jadeveon Clowney, right? Jadeveon Clowney, again, a top pick, but then kind of just going on 1 or 2-year deals in the middle part of his career. And he last year with the Saints, you look at the numbers and stat-wise, like, oh, he didn't really, stack up a whole lot in the box scores and that, but he still provided a decent amount of pressures. And I know that's not everybody's favorite word out there when it comes to pass rushers, because then you're like, well, turn those pressures into sacks. And yeah, you'd be right at that too. But would you be intrigued with maybe bringing in a guy like Chase Young? And he's still 26. Do you sign him for like a 2-year deal and put him apart with, or pair him up with Rashawn Gary and part with that rotation? And then maybe you have a little bit more money for a corner like DJ Reed. He's a smaller corner. He's up there in age. Hafley's familiar with him. He was his position coach with the 49ers. You can put him in that nickel, but he can play on the outside. He is a very solid number 2 type of corner. Well, at least was number 2 the last couple of years with Sauce Gardner there with the Jets. And then your wide receiver, Stephon Diggs, bringing in a veteran, coming off of an ACL, though. I think it's, if Jair was still on the team, that would be a little interesting since those two always go at it. But I think it's safe to assume Jair is not going to be on the team this year. So maybe otherwise that would provide for some interesting drama. Those are your options. Option 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which one are you going with? So I randomly put these together. I didn't have any, motives, ulterior motives or anything like that. But if I had, I just randomly put them together. If I made my pick on this, I think I would go with option 4. That's with Deo, Ward, and Adams. Deo, you're probably signing for a long-term deal, which and it gives me a little bit of pause, because if you sign him to a long-term deal, as on that, what is, Goody sings the praises of Lucas Van Ness and Rashawn Gary, and Rashawn Gary, they locked up and such. But, does that say, all right, yeah, we don't have a whole lot of confidence actually in these guys, even though I'll say it in the media? I pause a little bit whether they're going to give a big contract to a younger guy, but I'd be okay with it for Deo. Ward, you can probably get for a couple years. I know he's 29, but you bring him in. Maybe you still bring in a corner through the draft, and then Devontae for the next couple of years here too. If I had to pick one, If I had to pick one, I'm probably going option 4. I don't, when I look at the options here for the other ones, option 1 that had Milton and Murphy and Hollywood Brown, I'm not big on Hollywood Brown. I'd be good with the other 2. Option 2 with Khalil Mack and Amari Cooper and Asante Samuel Jr., I'm not big on Asante Samuel Jr., especially if Green Bay wants to play that press coverage, man coverage. He's not the greatest at that. That kind of takes a little bit of a hit for me. Option 3, I'm not the biggest on Joey Bosa, but that would probably be my close second because I'm very intrigued with Carlton Davis and Chris Godwin coming over. If you can get Bosa with Davis and Godwin, option 3 is so close. I mean, it's neck and neck for me. And then option 5, Young, DJ Reed, Stephon Diggs. I don't know if I want Stephon Diggs in my locker room. I don't know if I want that. So that kind of threw that one out the window for me. So for me, it's between 3 and 4. 4 with a slight edge over option 3. But I'd be happy with either one of those. That's just my opinion. Yours? Let me know. Text or comment on the video streams. Okay? Take a quick break. We'll be back to finish up the first hour after these quick words. Coming up tomorrow, it's the first ever VFW Post 305 indoor fishing contest. 1 o'clock to 4 p.m. Just a $10 entry fee that includes one fish entry for every drink purchased. Top 3 in every category wins a prize. You got 6 fish prize categories. And don't worry, because if your fish doesn't win first, second, or third place, you can still win the grand prize over there. So, you can still win the grand prize by adding up all the totals of your fishies. The highest total wins the grand prize. 19 prizes in total. They'll also have a bucket of bobbers with some of the bobbers marked with the winning dollar amounts. Buy a Twisted Tea or a Sun Cruiser to get a pick of the bobbers. So get on over there, sign up right now. It's coming at you tomorrow. Again, VFW Post 305 located on Star Avenue, 1 to 4 p.m. Their first indoor fishing contest. Speaking of VFW, on the 21st, on Friday, we're going to be over there watching some hoops, a little skip day. Free beer. Yep, heard it. So that's going to be coming at you. All right, till it's gone. Some free Man Cave Light. So put it on your calendars when we're over there on Friday. March 21st. Okay, I'm going to watch some hoops over there. VFW Post 305. Free beer till it's gone. Man Cave. Yeah. All right. Looking at some of it's all over the place, but I will say, because we got quite a few texts, I won't go through everybody's on the texting line here, but I would say 3 and 4, maybe a slight edge to 4. Option 4 is the popular pick right now. If I'm adding them all, just kind of casually adding them all up on the texting line here. So option 4 was the Devontae and Deo and Ward one. Option 3 was the Bosa, Davis, and Godwin one. Yeah, maybe by just a couple, it's option 4. So you could keep sending those on over though. Okay, hit me up with a text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line 715-830-1912. We'll revisit this coming up a little bit later on. But I purposely left off potential trade targets. But I do have coming up for our new segments, or our new game coming up at 8:05, and it's going to be a new one that we play every Friday. Pump the Brakes or Full Throttle, brought to you by AJM Automotive. I'll give it to you right now, so in case you can't listen at 8:05. But our Pump the Brakes got a couple of questions out there, and you either have to answer with pump the brakes, like, dude, pump the brakes on that, or full throttle, full speed ahead. Okay. So I got a couple of them, but I'll give you one right now since we were talking a little green and gold. Yesterday, with the news that the Bengals have given Trey Hendrickson permission, his agent permission to seek a trade partner. And again, that's another defensive end pass rusher that's potentially available, but he's looking for a new deal too. But I mean, the guy is just last year led the league sacks. I mean, he's a beast. So the question I'll throw out there, and then you either have to answer pump the brakes on that or full throttle. So essentially, nay or yay. The Packers should prioritize trading for Trey Hendrickson over DK Metcalf. Are you in the category of pump the brakes or full throttle? So, throwing that one out there. I got a couple more we're going to do at 8:05, but I'm throwing that one out there right now for everybody who chimed in on the Packers free agency option out there to see which one you would rather do. Are you saying full throttle or pump the brakes on that one? So, if you can't text in at 8:05, you can text in right now. I'll just save your answers for when we get to that. So, okay, Monday's going to be fun when we get to the legal negotiation period. I'm trying to keep saying that so I don't say illegal tampering, because you get yelled at when you say that going forward. All right, so we'll get to those coming up a little bit later on, and we'll get to those. Yeah, get those coming later on. Also coming up next hour, we'll catch up with Dr. Crow for a little inside the training room. We'll talk to him about Abdul Carter's foot injury from the combine. I know it was a little over a week ago and such, but get his thoughts on it and some other stuff that's going on in the sports injury world. After that, Brandon will join us. We'll do some local sports roundup. A busy night last night with girls hoops. A lot of our local teams just one win away from advancing to states. Boys are back at it tonight. We've got state hockey going on. So we'll talk all things local sports with Brandon. We'll talk some Brewers with him too. Solid night for Jacob Mizorowski on the mound for the Brewers. 3 innings he got 3 innings yesterday, giving up 0 hits, striking out 3, no walks for the young, powerful pitcher. Not a bad night at the plate, too, for Garrett Mitchell. 3 at-bats, couple hits, 3 RBIs. So we'll talk some Brewers as yesterday was 3 weeks away from opening day. And then we'll get Brandon's thoughts on the Jose Quintana signing, too. So Brewers chat plus basketball tomorrow. Bucks are back at it, but the Badgers finish up their regular season against Penn State. Marquette will finish up their regular season against St. John's. That's going to be a tough one. So the college basketball regular season for some teams wrapping up. Some teams are already in their conference tournaments, or some have already wrapped up their seasons. I know UW-Milwaukee lost last night in the Horizon League tournament. But we'll talk a little college hoops along with some Bucks talk. Bucks are back at it tomorrow night, taking on the Orlando Magic. So we'll get to that. Plus, cream of the crop. You can send me your picks for who you think should be the cream of the crop, or who is your cream of the crop. Text it, tweet it, Facebook it, comment on the video stream, all that good stuff. So we'll get to those coming up a little bit later on. Got a few more picks, it looks like, in for option 4 for our free agency grouping. That's, again, the Devontae, the Ward, and the Deo. I just want to say, I hope they sign Deo so I can have the Deo hotkey potted up for that. So keep those coming. I'll try to keep a tab and see where the majority of the votes go to. So I have to minimize that so I don't get a little distracted too. But you can also, again, send in your text for your pump the brakes and full throttle. We'll get to those a little bit later on. So perfect timing because we've got Morgs in. Good morning, Morgs.
Perfect timing. What did I step into?
Well, I finished my sentence. So
hey, well, period, hard stop, double space. I see a football in front of me. I see baseballs to my right. I don't see any hockey pucks in here. Are you not a hockey fan?
No, nobody's giving me a hockey puck. People drop off garbage in here all the time. So,
well, there's a mix. There's garbage and some paraphernalia and some fun stuff too. But you don't have any hockey pucks. What else isn't represented in here? There's a basketball over there, so you got the biggies.
Yep.
Now, if
there's a hockey stick.
Oh, you do have hockey. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I do have a hockey stick.
I don't see
it's funny because actually last night I was thinking about this.
Okay.
I was thinking about this, like when we go to the new studio.
Yep.
I was going to reach out to the Blue Golds and like the Express and see if they got like a new hockey stick,
sure,
a baseball bat, and I have like an old locker corner.
Right. And did you see the Express are putting up a new scoreboard this season? That's going to be swank.
Yeah, we had Sammy and Craig in the other day talking about
that.
Good. So
now, if you were going to ask somebody to drop off something that represented track and field, what would you ask for? Because I don't
hurdle.
You want a big old hurdle in here?
Or a javelin.
Hanging from the ceiling?
Yeah. Or a javelin so I can...
Or a shot put to anchor down that desk.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah.
Discus probably is the easiest one.
Yeah, that would probably be an easy artifact.
Mm-hmm.
What about cross country? You would need like a golden shoe or something. Something to represent the
gold spikes.
Or a blanket because they always start early in the season and it's freezing cold and they're all wrapped when they're done running the 3.
Yeah.
What else? What else for sports would you like? You would need some gymnasts to represent. You would need some wrestling. There's some cheer action that they work hard. You're probably going to need that in there as well. Now, do you consider esports?
A jock strap.
Have you come across on esports? Yeah, it depends on where you get that jock strap from. You're going to want to be careful what team you pick.
Bicycle shorts.
Yeah.
Anyways, what esports?
Yes. Do you consider esports an actual like representing the lineup of sports if we were going to start collecting paraphernalia and artifacts?
We got actually some listeners who are involved with it.
So, well, there's a team on Stout, like uniforms
Chippewa
and the whole nine.
Falls has a team,
it's a thing.
Yeah. like I always get confused because when I hear esports, I feel like they play Madden, which I think is, but they don't. Like I just saw, I think it was Chippewa Falls. They were playing Mario Kart at State. I'm like, I want to do that, but old Super Nintendo.
Right. Now, have you come around though? I could, by the way, you would go so down at old Nintendo. Joystick or clicker?
Clicker.
Oh, no. I see. We played with the joystick. We upgraded in my home.
See, I'm old school though, so that's why I would beat you if I could do it on the clicker.
Are you so old school that it doesn't feel like a sport though? Or are you coming around and like it's legit now and it can get swept into the conversation?
See, I'd even like if we throw in the Wii here, the steering wheel, I'd rather have the Super Nintendo controller. A-B.
Because that's what you're used to. Yeah, that's what I play too. Siggy's got a Switch and I can still take her down. Like I'm not one of those parents that lets their kids win. If we're firing up the old Mario, it's over. A little DK action in there. So
I was not a big Donkey Kong one.
No?
Nope.
See, my niece loves Donkey Kong.
No,
it all depends on what you play. Nope. What do you think is, if you were going to say the best sports video game ever? So like if you put sports and e-gaming together, what is in your opinion the best video game ever?
If I'm not just lumping them all, I won't just say Madden.
Right.
Because they're so.
No, it has to be specific.
I will have to say NHL 94 for Sega.
Really? Yep. See, we grew up, my sister and I played, Jack Nichols had a golf game that we played.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to be a hole-in-one on that game.
Yep.
Joystick, baby. Need fixed, or you have a skill that you'd like to volunteer, you can be part of an upcoming Fix It clinic that will be in March at the Rossback Museum. Find those full details online when you make that stop at 715newsroom.com. Now, is something fishy with your egg salad? Everybody's talking about those higher egg prices. Is it bird flu or something else? Brian Shook cracks into the story.
According to data from the United States Department of Agriculture, egg prices nearly doubled in the last 6 weeks. A dozen costs on average about $8. The rise in prices has largely been blamed on the bird flu. However, the watchdog report from Food and Water Watch says that bird flu has slightly reduced egg production, but corporate greed has also played a major role. I'm Brian Shook.
And George Carlin once said the caterpillar does all the work, but the butterfly gets all the publicity. Turns out, though, there's a reason we're talking about them. They're disappearing.
According to a new study published in the journal Science, their total populations declined by over 20% between 2000 and 2020. The study's lead author said in a statement that the numbers should be a wake-up call. I'm Mark Mayfield.
You know, Kasper was looking awful tired this week. I said, buddy, we got coffee, pound it. And he said, no, it's more than that. He's been sleeping through his alarm, and now he wants me to add this to my to-do list. Every day, send him
wake-up call.
For Sports Talk 105.1 I'm Morgan McCarthy.
Our Friday is kicking off with dry weather, as we do have some cloud cover in the area. Those temperatures starting off in the teens and 20s. Later on today, we are going to be near that 40-degree mark, partly to mostly sunny skies. Meanwhile, for tonight, just a few passing clouds will cool it off to around 20 degrees as we head into the weekend. Variable sun and clouds, a breezy southwest wind, our high temperatures in the 40s and 50s. I'm 13 First Alert meteorologist Derek Dahlman.
Time to take a look at some farm news on Sports Talk 105.1 and AM 790. Hold all tickets. The give and take on tariffs continues between the U.S. and our three largest trading partners, Canada, Mexico, and China, and some changes in that relationship with Mexico and Canada yesterday, because late yesterday, President Donald Trump announced he is temporarily suspending tariffs on Canadian and Mexican imports to the United States for all products covered by the 2019 U.S.-Mexico-Canada Free Trade Agreement. That includes a long list of agricultural products like potash fertilizer, corn, soybeans, and many more products. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins was among the long list of agricultural people and organizations to praise the president's actions. Rollins said the move is a critical step forward in helping U.S. farmers manage and secure key input costs at the height of the planting season while reinforcing long-term agricultural trade relationships around the world. And over the past month, about 5,700 USDA employees have received an email that said simply, "You're fired." But a federal employment board ruled that terminating those workers was unlawful. The Merit Systems Protection Board said they were investigating the administration's actions, and those employees must be hired back for at least 45 days. And yesterday, a cheese variety called Arethusa Europa from Arethusa Farm Dairy in Connecticut was named the 2025 U.S. Championship cheese at the U.S. Cheese Championship competition going on the past week over at the Resch Center in Green Bay. Finishing as first runner-up was a cheese from Pennsylvania, while Lake Country Dairy Schumann Cheese of Turtle Lake from in northwest Wisconsin finished as second runner-up with their Cello Copper Kettle Parmesan variety. And you can go online and find the champions in all the categories and plan to take some time. It'll be a while before you get through the list of all the 2,400 entries. That's a look at food and farm news this morning on Sports Talk 105.1 and AM 790. Don't forget to turn your clocks ahead on Saturday night. I'm Bob Bosold.
Rapid radios are instant push-to-talk walkie-talkies offering national LTE coverage. For a limited time, go to rapidradios.com now for 60% off and free UPS shipping. Add code radio and get an extra 5% off.
Ladies and gentlemen, sports aficionados and armchair quarterbacks, welcome to the Dan Kasper Show, where sports passion meets expert analysis. Dan's encyclopedic knowledge and infectious passion for all things sports is both impressive and sad.
I have many leather-bound books.
So get ready to laugh, cheer, and maybe even facepalm a few times.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
It's the Dan Kasper Show.
Second hour on this Friday morning coming at you. Big thanks for tuning in however you're tuning in from. Our busy Friday morning continues to roll on here. We're going to do some local sports roundup with Brandon. Busy postseason with basketball, state hockey going on. So we'll catch up with Brandon on that. We'll talk some Brewers with spring training now officially less than 3 weeks away till opening day. Got that. Free agency for the NFL begins next week. College basketball this weekend, wrapping up the regular season for the Badgers and Marquette tomorrow. Bucks back at it tomorrow, so lots to get to here. We begin this hour, though, with our doctor, Dr. Austin Crow.
Paging Dr. Crow. Breaking down the latest in sports injuries. It's time for Inside the Training Room with Dr. Crow. You better call me a doctor. On the Dan Kasper Show. Somebody give me a doctor.
He is Dr. Austin Crow, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, joining us here this morning. Austin, how was fishing last week? Did you have any luck?
We did all right. We had caught a lot of fish. They were just small, but it's sometimes just the act of being out there and relaxing, having a good time. It's just as much fun. But yeah, it's always nice to catch big ones.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good to have you back on because last week we had the NFL Combine, and one of the big stories to come out of the Combine was potential #1 overall pick Abdul Carter, the defensive lineman from Penn State. There was a report that after medical evaluations, it revealed a stress fracture in his foot. And then there was some debate whether he was going to have surgery or not. His team opted not to have surgery. So, I mean, what are your thoughts when you heard about that, especially when it's potentially the #1 overall pick? We've talked about foot fractures and such. I mean, is that something that would give you a little bit of concern that it was revealed that he had a stress fracture in his foot and he's not having surgery?
Yeah, so it's likely a Jones fracture, which is a precursor to that. Obviously, in this case, is just a stress fracture in that area. So it's in the 5th metatarsal, so on the bone on the side of the foot. There's an area that has it's what we call watershed area. So the blood supply, some of it comes from the tendon on the kind of proximal end, some of it comes from blood vessels more in the central. So it leaves a little area where it doesn't get great supply from either spot, and that area is prone to injury. And the problem is once the injury occurs, it's not great at healing. And so that's why that can be a real tricky injury to get to heal correctly. So when you see an athlete with that, your options are as follows. You shut them down, boot, limited activity, and try to get that bone to heal. Or you put a screw across it. So you make a small incision inside of the foot, and then you put a large, usually titanium or metal screw right down the pipe. And that, of course, makes a rigid construct across it, which takes stress off that area. Surgery, if surgery occurs, it's going to be a longer recovery compared to if it healed on its own. The problem is if you try to get it to heal on its own, it may not heal, and therein lies the rub. So at face value, yes, there's always a concern when you have a stress fracture, will it heal correctly? I will say, I'm sure he's had a thorough evaluation. If the MRI didn't show that it's a real severe one, non-operative certainly makes sense, because going in with a screw is not without issues as well. Often people get irritation, so you have to go back and take the screw out. Sometimes people can have problems after the screw comes back out. So it's not like that surgery is a guaranteed win. Now, I would say if it actually completed, meaning it's not just a stress fracture, it was a full fracture, I think that would be much more likely to be treated with surgery. So in this case, definitely newsworthy, and certainly is going to give some teams the ability to say, wait a minute, let's take a closer look at it. But with a thorough evaluation, they'll have MRIs. I'm guessing it's going to be something that shouldn't be a long-term issue for them.
Now, when it comes to foot injuries and such, is when I don't know if this is a similar one, but whenever I hear foot fractures, and I think of the Liz Frank injury, is that the worst one? Is that something similar, or just in a different part of the foot?
It is in a different part. That's the midfoot, and yeah, that is a bad one. Yeah, that is absolutely career-threatening. So that's an injury where you get that fixed, and it's to put it bluntly, a crapshoot. Sometimes those heal okay, sometimes they don't. The overall track record for that one is definitely not nearly as good as, let's say, a 5th metatarsal fracture. And there are a couple bad actors in the feet. There's a navicular bone. There's been that's what cut Yao Ming's career short. Was a stress fracture, and eventually I think that went on to AVN. What's called avascular necrosis, where the bone starts to die essentially. So there's a couple different injuries of the foot that can be quite serious. Certainly the most common by a mile would be just a standard sprained ankle, which we see a dime a dozen, but those can be problems in and of themselves. So, the foot and ankle are definitely a host to a number of injuries that keep us busy over at the office. But certainly, if you're talking about severity, Liz Frank ones, they are really high up there as far as things that you're worried about being really career ending. So those are ones you never like to see, but luckily they're rare. Those aren't some that ones that you see come through very often. So it's an uncommon injury, but one that is quite severe.
I want to go back to apparently this just came out the other day, but the Super Bowl Brandon Graham, the Eagles defensive end, who actually played in the game, and he was recovering from a torn triceps, but a report said that he actually retore that triceps again in the Super Bowl. He only played 13 snaps. So not sure at what point in the game he tore it or retore it. He's already had surgery. Now, there is speculation he was going to retire anyways, but the fact that he retore it Is there any, like, I mean, is it a harder recovery? Is it a longer recovery? Is it a similar kind of path? Is there any other issues with that retour that could potentially maybe make that decision for him?
Yeah, I mean, the answer is absolutely. It's more challenging in basically every facet. So first off, once it tears, the first one's probably a relatively clean tear. The second one, once you have them anchored back in, I mean, there's anchors and sutures that are running into that triceps tendon. So when it tears, it's probably going to have like an atypical tear pattern because there's going to be sutures holding tendon. It's going to rip around that. And then if you also take a step back and think about what that arm's already been through, so you have the injury, you have the surgery, the recovery, it takes a while to bounce back, and it probably never got back to fully 100%. I mean, anyone out there who's had a major tendon injury, so whether it's Achilles, whether it's quad, whether it's patella, whether it's tricep, or whatever it is, it may never get back truly to 100%. So then now you have an injury on top of that. So, yeah, I mean, that is not an ideal situation. And I mean, that's certainly pushing to say, look, maybe it's just time to hang it up. Is it impossible to come back? Absolutely not. I mean, there are people who come back from re-tears. We see them, but I can tell you the success rate for repairing a revision repair is definitely lower. So, I mean, whether it's getting the hardware to work, whether it's getting the tendon to heal correctly, I mean, those are all things that are more challenging in the revision setting.
Want to move over to hoops because we've seen a rash of injuries in the NBA. Kyrie Irving, obviously, with his ACL, and then Jalen Suggs. The reason I want to bring this one up because it was the way, and I don't know if this is accurate phrasing of this, but Jalen Suggs is done for the year. He's been dealing with a knee injury for the last month, but he, according to this, said underwent surgery to take out some cartilage in his knee. Is that a thing? Take it out? Because we've talked about cartilage a lot when it comes to ACL and knee injuries. Is it a thing to take out cartilage, and that's the method to get him back on the court, if you will?
Yeah, the answer is yes. So we only take it out if it's an unstable flap. So, and just take one quick step back here to just review anatomy quickly. So generally when we're talking about the cartilage in this sense, we're talking about the hyaline cartilage or the articular cartilage from the end of the bone. So that white shiny stuff that covers the ends of the bone. There's also fibrocartilage, which is meniscus tissue, and sometimes people get those two confused. But in this circumstance, they're certainly talking about the cartilage in the bone, and that is, I mean, we've talked about that. Like that is a very serious issue because once you have damage to that does not heal very well, and then you have to do different procedures to try address that, and usually gets filled back in. The most rudimentary would simply be removing it and then debriding. We call that a chondroplasty. So taking the loose piece into a chondroplasty. What he's having done is also something called a mosaicplasty. So mosaicplasty is where they take little plugs of bone and cartilage from his knee. They'll move it from one spot that's kind of not as important and move it to more of the prime real estate. So his is in his trochlea, which is basically the groove where the kneecap rubs against. So they'll do little plugs and try to fill it in. That procedure works pretty well. I do it fairly routinely on patients, and we have a good success rate. Obviously, doing it on a person who's a weekend warrior and just trying to get back to life is one thing. Getting someone to go back to the NBA is another story. So it will be interesting to see. But, I will say historically, a lot of these NBA, NFL, whatever players are talking about, when they have cartilage procedures, they try to be minimally invasive, and they would just try to do cleanups, microfractures, things like that. We are seeing more of these de novo procedures where you're grafting cartilage in, or mosaicplasty, which is a form of called an osteochondral allograft or autograft. So they are trying to do more to salvage these knees. And I mean, we just don't know how it's going to work out. I mean, because what they're going to put their knees through, again, is not what the average guy or gal is going to do on the weekend. So it'll be interesting to watch this. But so they didn't just take it out. So they took it out, but that was because that there was either a flap or now a defect. And then they went back and harvested and transferred cartilage into that spot.
Interesting. Oh, so last one for you here, and it's probably the biggest unknown in the NBA, Joel Embiid. Right now, he's done for the year. And I was reading on NBC Sports, or not NBA.com, excuse me. And the phrasing they say is that the 76ers say they are working with medical experts to determine an exact treatment plan. Joel Embiid said, I think the straightforward answer is that when you've got something that's inconsistent, at some point, you've got to do something about it. We don't know what it is. We're looking into every option. So, I mean, it paints the picture. They don't know exactly what's going on with his knee. What are some of the, for tests, or what are doctors trying to figure out? Like, what are some of the options that they're looking at, or different things to do to try to figure out what's going on with Joel Embiid's knee?
Yeah, the rumor I had seen floating around is that it's due to a deficient meniscus. So he's had meniscal surgery in the past, and they're talking about doing a meniscal transplant. So that's where you take a cadaver meniscus and put it in the knee, and that is a surgery that we do as well. So it's not super common. I mean, I only do a handful a year, but compared to like removing or repairing meniscus, we do a couple of those a week. It is a much less frequent surgery, but the challenge is you're taking a cadaver one, trying to get it to heal back in place, and then even though the body does grow into the periphery of it, it never fully integrates, and so the risk of re-tearing it is fairly high. So just to my point about being more aggressive with cartilage, I mean, certainly I don't know of any other professional athlete that's had a meniscal transplant that's come back. And to take it one step further, you can't just take any meniscal fragment and put it in there. It's got to match, and so I think it probably would take a while for them to find a knee that's exactly like Joel Embiid's, because I'm sure he is made different than the rest of us. So that's what I had heard. There was a doc that was talking about it. So I don't know what his source was exactly, but to answer your question explicitly, I mean, they're going to be doing MRIs, physical exams, listening to the patient talk about what's going on. But with his history, certainly it's going to either be a deficient meniscus or cartilage or both. And then once you get into that situation, especially with a big man, if you start having cartilage problems, I mean, the list of NBA players whose careers have been cut short by cartilage is a long list. So that unfortunately could spell the beginning of the end. If it is just a deficient meniscus and not cartilage yet, could a meniscus transplant work? Yeah, I mean, I've done meniscus transplants and gotten patients back to high school and college sports, so it is possible, but it is certainly not a guarantee. So it will be interesting to see how that one plays out. They're playing it a little bit, tight-lipped. But again, what I'd heard was potentially a meniscus issue and a meniscal transplant. So that would be a long recovery, potentially even, out part of next season unless they do something really quickly. But time will tell.
Man, I mean, when you're talking, I just had flashbacks to, I know it's probably a little bit different, but Bakhtiari and his recovery from that knee. So,
I mean, that explains it all right there. I mean, it's more than one thing, but as soon as you get that cartilage element involved, I mean, that is always the challenge. I mean, when I talk to my patients and families after surgery and they don't have cartilage issues, I always tell them, like, look, we had this, that, and the other, but the good news is we have good cartilage, and that's the foundation for any joint. So I don't care what joint in the body you're talking about. If you have good cartilage, you can often salvage the situation very well. Once you start getting into significant cartilage damage, it is a much more challenging scenario where you're trying to restore function and activity, and then really, honestly, pain relief. I mean, because then you start getting into, I mean, you're really talking about post-traumatic arthritis in these young players. So, I mean, people in their 20s that are dealing with early arthritic changes. I mean, that's a tough spot to be in, and that's one of the real challenges. And someday we're going to have, whip up a stem cell shot, shoot it in, and the knee will grow back or something, but we're not there yet. So we're still stuck with the scenario where we're trying to figure out how to address that.
Man, he's Dr. Austin Crow, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine for Inside the Training Room. And as always, if you missed a little bit of a portion, we've got that up on our podcast and such. Dude, appreciate the time as always, man. You have yourself a fantastic weekend. Enjoy the weather too coming up, it sounds like. So maybe.
Yeah, we'll tell you. It's been a bit of a whirlwind as far as ups and downs. But yeah, spring should be around the corner.
Got to get that little one out on the golf course here soon too. So
absolutely.
All right, dude. We'll talk to you soon. Okay, bud?
Take care.
You got it. Dr. Austin Crow, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Very quick break, and then we've got Mr. Brandon Berg coming up here in just a skosh. Looking for fresh, affordable, and convenient? You'll find it all at Hy-Vee in Eau Claire. From fresh produce to top quality meats and everything else in between, they make shopping easy. Do you need a quick dinner solution? Well, check out their delicious grab-and-go meals. Hosting a get-together, their bakery and deli have got you covered. Plus, with weekly deals and friendly service, there's always more to love. And don't forget about their fuel savers that help you save some money at the gas pump. Shop smart, shop Hy-Vee. We got Brandon joining us here this morning. Let's do some local sports roundup to kick off because it is busy. It is very busy going on right now. And I know last night we had a lot of girls basketball action, and it was a very good night for a lot of local teams here. I mean, Eau Claire Memorial won, Rice Lake won, Baldwin Woodville, Elk Mound, Durant, Arkansas, McDonald Central, the game you were at, Eau Claire Manual Lutheran, Owen Withee, Oliva Strum. All won. Right. So
this is shaping up to be quite a Saturday for girls basketball. A lot of these games are pretty close to home. So if you want to go watch one, you got no excuse. Yeah. I mean, starting in Division 1 with Eau Claire Memorial, they go and they go over to Stevens Point and they beat Neenah.
Yeah.
And I mean, right now, like, I think the best thing you can say about the Old Abe's, like, they're just taking care of business.
Yeah.
Like, you look at all throughout the playoffs here, going back a couple rounds, they play Marshfield. We know Marshfield's always a solid team.
Yep.
They go and they beat them by 20. Then they go to play Neenah, a team from the Fox Valley Association, which is a great conference. Beat them by 20. Now they've kind of got another FVA team in Appleton East, who's kind of been a bit of a Cinderella here in the Division 1 postseason. Scored the upset win over Spash last night on a near half court shot at the buzzer. So, this is obviously this has kind of been something that for that Old Abe's team has been building for the last couple of years. And, now obviously the opportunity is right on their doorstep. They've got a chance to, with one more win, get to state for the first time since 2001.
Yeah.
And, that game's tomorrow at 3:00 in Marshfield. So that's not a far drive away if you want to go check out the Old Abe's.
So, yeah, I mean, we went through that list and there's going to be a really good chance you or even like our good friend Justice.
They're
going to be busy,
right?
trying to cover all these. But
Division 2. I mean, Rice Lake and Shawano are going to be playing in Mosinee. And right now that game's scheduled for 7:00 tomorrow night. Keep in mind that while these locations at this point are pretty well locked in, the time might fluctuate just because if there's conflicts with like boys basketball regional finals, they're not going to run a girls basketball sectional final at 7:00 at the same time. The same school might have a boys team playing, and that's something that like in Division 4 as of right now, McDonald Durant Arkansas is scheduled for 7:00 in Altoona, but that obviously might change if the Max and or Durant Arkansas win tonight in boys basketball. That I mean, I would just won't be surprised if at some point during the day that game gets moved to 1:00 anyway. I mean, that's kind of the general one we've seen here. Timing wise, Division 3, Baldwin Woodville, Elk Mound playing in Eau Claire North tomorrow at 1:00. That's a rematch from last year's sectional finals where Baldwin Woodville won. Last night, Elk Mound picking up a tight win over Wisconsin Dells to advance and move a step away from state. Eau Claire North is going to be hosting a doubleheader tomorrow.
Yeah,
they got the 1:00 game between the Blackhawks and the Mounders, and then at 5:00 you've got Owen Withee. You mentioned them earlier. They're taking on Eau Claire Manual, another team that's kind of been a bit of a Cinderella, even though that is a good Lancers team. I mean, that's a team that's went on the road here and got wins over the top 3 seeds in that half of the section: New Auburn, Webster, and Solon Springs last night, and they've done it all by double figures.
Yeah,
and obviously we can go back to the fall and see what the Lancers were able to do on the volleyball court. There's some carryover there with some great athletes that are on the basketball court here, but and on the Owen Withee end of things, it's kind of a similar story. I mean, they're taking care of business, coming off a solid win over Rib Lake. And one of these teams is, they're going to be punching their ticket to the Division 5 state tournament next week.
And I know because you were at the McDonald game last night, and that was a close game.
Wild game.
Yeah.
Wild game, back and forth game. I mean, one of the more kind of wild back and forth, lots of different things happening games I can recall being at. But McDonald picks up the 62-61 win over Cameron. They'll advance to face Durant, Arkansas, who took care of Colfax in the other sectional semi. So, that's a rematch from early in the year. That was, early in the year they met. McDonald won that game, but it was a close game. And I think these are two teams that are much better than they were then. So, I mean, one of those teams is going to state. And we also mentioned too, elsewhere in Division 5, I mean, we've got another with the Levis Drum.
Oh,
yeah, they're still alive. I mean, that they won a Dairyland matchup with Blair Taylor, 64-61, and the Dairylands has been a good conference for girls basketball this year, and obviously with a couple teams still alive, that's that's kind of proven out. But Levis Drum is the 2 seed, and they'll take on Barneveld, who is a kind of a blue blood of small school basketball in the state. That game will be tomorrow at 1:00 at La Crosse Logan. So, as you said, a very busy schedule here coming up on the girls basketball end.
Yeah, and I know for the boys, you kind of alluded to it. It kicks back up tonight and tomorrow.
Right, regional semifinals tonight. Obviously, Eau Claire North and Eau Claire Memorial is one that's going to get a lot of people's attention around here. But there's a lot of other really, really important matchups too. McDonald going up to Ladysmith. That's one where I think that a team that wins tonight could also might have a decent chance to win tomorrow night. I mean, they're going to face either Colfax or Clear Lake. I think there's an opportunity there for a few different teams. Honestly, I think you can almost make a case for almost any of those 4 teams out of those. But in Division III, we got Bloomer hosting Adams Friendship. There's just so many matchups coming out there, and then like I said, it's for basketball here. It's boom boom. It's very quick. I mean, by then tomorrow night we're going to be in, down to sectional qualifiers for boys basketball, but it comes and it goes quick.
Yeah, because I mean, for some of these teams, it's their first games, right?
Right. Yeah.
Coming in here
For a lot. Yeah. For many of them, especially with like Division I. This is the first game for both the Old Abes and the Huskies, and it's the first game for say a Hudson who's going on the road to Stevens Point, or So yeah,
Turtle Lake,
Turtle Lake, and this Turtle, because I'm trying to remember if Turtle Lake got a bye or not.
They did
get it as the 1 seed, okay, because I wasn't sure about that in Division 5, but right, and there were more byes in the larger divisions, but there were a fair amount of them in 3 and 4 as well. But Altoona going to play Elk Mound, which is kind of some of those. I mentioned this when the bracket came out, but some of those Division III matchups to me are very interesting.
Yeah,
with Altoona and Elk Mound. I mean, that's an Altoona team that can put the ball in the basket.
Oh yeah, Coach Pauly over there.
Oh yeah, and you got Stanley Boyd going to Arcadia. That's an interesting matchup. GET taking on Berlin, and the winner there will face either Bloomer or Adams Friendship. Like that's one that I could see going a bunch of different ways, and it wouldn't surprise me.
So yeah, we'll probably we will have a little bit of a clear picture after tomorrow night's games and such too. So as we get a little bit closer to state, because then they'll be at this time next week will be
Girls State.
Yeah, and then boys will be where the girls are right now.
Correct. So, correct. Yeah, and girls hockey obviously last night down at State, the Eau Claire Area Co-op. I mean, one heck of an effort against Central Wisconsin. Central Wisconsin and Bay Area, those are really the 2 prominent year in and year out kind of juggernauts of girls hockey in the state. And for Eau Claire Area to take them to overtime, I mean, I have to imagine when that team's they're going into overtime and they're not flinching at all. That's a team that has played overtime in 2 of their 3 previous postseason games. True. But early on, Central Wisconsin gets the goal to get the win, but that's a heck of a season. Coach Stowe and that group making that run from the 3 seed I mentioned. Those first 2 games they played in the postseason were overtime games, including a 5 overtime game.
Nope.
Like there's just obviously I'm sure it's a bummer right now, but just nothing to really hang your head about on that one. I mean, that's a great run, and taking one of the preeminent teams in the state to the absolute limit is that's a lot. That's a lot to be proud of there for the Stars.
Exactly. So yeah, and then I know on the boys' side, was it Somerset's
Amory?
Amory
picking up the win over Somerset in the middle border battle. So they tomorrow they'll place Tomahawk in the Division II boys title game.
Which surprises me because just going back, Tomahawk was in our conference, Lumberjack Conference. To see that was their first state win. Tomahawk.
Right, because they've been there a few times before. But
so
they're
wow,
getting the breakthrough with the win over McFarland. So and Division I, those boys games are today. They'll be dropping the puck here a little bit later this morning. You've got Brookfield, who was a state finalist last year. They'll be in action taking on Madison Edgewood. And then you got a couple powerhouses in the other semifinal, Wausau West, who obviously beat Memorial last week, and Green Bay Notre Dame, the defending state champs. And then all those title games are tomorrow.
So, I know gymnastics state's next week.
No, gymnastics state's this week.
Is it this weekend?
It's today.
Is it today?
It is today.
It is March 7th. I was thinking next week was.
Yes.
Okay,
So today is the team competition. So most notable for our area, Chippewa Falls McDonald's in action down there. They won the sectional last week. They set a new school record for their score, just shy of 147 points, which that is generally in the ballpark of where you want to be if you want a legitimate shot at a state team championship.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to be in action. That gets going, I think, at like noon today. So got a chance to talk with the co-op a little bit earlier this week, and coming off that effort, they really kind of felt like it was the first time this year they were firing on all cylinders, and they weren't fully firing on all cylinders because they had a couple falls in their beam routines that actually cost them some points. But that's a Chippewa Falls McDonald team that's got 3 seniors on the team, kind of leading the way with Ava Krista, Ellis Baith, and Lily Schultz. And we kind of talked when we talked about it, but without actually saying it. Like, they understand, like, this is an opportunity. Like, the last few years they've been on state, they finished 3rd a couple years ago. They finished 4th last year, but they were still 3, 4, 5 points behind the heavy hitters. This year they said they don't feel that way. Like, you even look at their scores and like they're right there with. And the southern part of the state is always so strong in gymnastics, especially teams where you need the depth. And they're going in today saying, hey, this, none of us would flat out say, hey, you could go do this, but you could tell just there was a quiet confidence, like, hey, if we go and take care of business, like, this could happen. And then tomorrow you got the individual competition, which there'll be 4 Chippewa Falls McDonald girls. I mentioned the 3 seniors, but also Peyton Grunwald. There'll be an individual action. That's kind of the unique thing about gymnastics is they advanced to stay as a team because they won the sectional team title, but then they also were 4 of the top 5 individual all-around finishers. So then they get to go and compete in the all-around competition.
Okay.
And then also there's some individual events. Basically, if you finish the top 5 in an event, you go to state individually.
Gotcha.
So they can, like, you can go and you can win like a state, floor exercise championship, but you're going to be doing all of them because it's still going to all count towards your all-around score.
Gotcha.
And then in Division 2, you've got some Rice Lake representation. They were down there as well, but then as a team, but also individually as well. Bloomer Colfax with a couple of competitors going down, and Selena Hess and Ellen Nelson. So they'll be in action tomorrow. But that's down in Wisconsin Rapids, and that's we're getting right to it.
Yeah. I know it's not a sport that's going on, but I just saw you posting about it. Bloomer football.
Yes.
Going to be looking for a new head coach.
Yes. Longtime coach John Post is going to be retiring. He's retiring from both coaching and also from teaching. He's a longtime teacher in the Bloomer district, so he's stepping down at the end of this school year. He's got he owns a business. He's got a family he's looking to spend more time with. I mean, he's just felt like the time is right, and those are other things he kind of wants to be able to do. And he's going to take time to do them. So I mean, 21 years as the head coach there, more than 140 wins under his belt, 5 conference championships. They were a game away from state in 2011. I mean, that's a Bloomer team that they've always been so competitive and consistent in the heart of North that to the point where after a while, him and I would joke about it with him because every year when I would go to talk to him at the start of the year, and one of the things I asked coaches, what are your expectations? And he would say the exact same thing. He would always say, we want to finish in the top 4 of the conference. We want to make the playoffs. So it got to the point where I would just say, so John, you guys are going to finish in the top 4 and make the playoffs? He goes, well, that's the hope. But yeah, just someone that's had a lot of success at that school. Yeah, and I mentioned not just as a coach, but also as a teacher. So another one. I mean, and this is it's kind of ironic that it comes a couple months after Jeff Koenig steps on Stanley Boyd. I mean, those are 2 coaches that took over their respective programs in 2004.
Oh wow!
And they've both had a lot of success, and we'll see who ends up as the new Bloomer coach. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of very capable candidates. And yeah, it's just going to be kind of a bit of a new era there for the Blackhawks once we hit football here in August.
Yeah, definitely. Quick notes on some local colleges. Well, stout wise today for women's basketball, they begin the national tournament, and UW Stout, remember, is hosting some of the games. So UW Stout women's team is going to be taking on Ripon College. Softball is down in Decatur, Illinois, in action there for the Blue Golds. We've got, it's the Y championships for gymnastics too. So that's going on. Women's lacrosse for the Blue Golds taking on Edgewood. Softball is taking on St. Norbert's, and that's actually going to be at the Sonotech Center. So if you want to check that out and watch some softball in the Sonotech Center, you can do so. And then I know indoor track and field is going on at lacrosse, but also big hockey big hockey games coming up. The women's team taking on River Falls for the WIAC championship, and the men's team taking on River Falls for the WIAC championship. So men's team, a little bit, I mean, this is a little bit of an upset for those two. You know, they were able to get through. Men's team defeating Points. I believe River Falls defeated Superior. So that one's at Hobbs. So chance to clinch a spot in the national tournament's on the line for that men's one. So yeah, a lot of stuff happening. I mean, you mentioned it, prep base or basketball spots to go to state are on the line. Spots to go to the national tournament for hockey's on the line this weekend.
Yeah, by the way, track starts next week.
Oh, that too. So holy crap. So lots going on. And I haven't seen it, but Google Baseball was supposed to be at Carson Park. I don't think that's going to happen this weekend, but you never know.
Well, if you clear it, look, the weather's supposed to be great on Sunday. If we can maybe give them a little help to clear the Carson Park off.
Yeah, maybe. So
maybe see that cool new scoreboard.
Yeah. But I know they just they got their season started off at US Bank Stadium and picked up a couple wins too. So that's your local sports roundup, brought to you by Carpet City Flooring Center. Our good friends over there at Carpet City Flooring Center. You thinking about new floors? Will make your vision a reality at Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire. Whether it's soft, luxurious carpet or tiles or luxury vinyl planks, they've got the perfect style for every space. Their huge selection, unbeatable prices, and expert installation make upgrading your home easy. Not sure where to start? No problem, because their flooring specialists are there to help every step of the way. Their entire team will work with you from step one to the finish line, helping you find the perfect floor for your home and budget. And don't forget, if you happen to find a better deal elsewhere, Carpet City Flooring Center will match or beat the competition. Stop dreaming and start designing. Visit Carpet City Flooring Center today and step into something beautiful. Let's take a quick break. We'll finish up the second hour. We're going to talk some Brewers baseball. And then coming up at 8 o'clock, we got a new game we're going to play, Brandon.
Ooh.
I'll tell you about that coming up after the break, too. Coming up this weekend at our good friends at the VFW Post 305 on Star Avenue. And again, another reminder, they've got their indoor fishing tournament. The first time they're doing this, 1 o'clock to 4 p.m. tomorrow. $10 entry fee that includes one fish entry for every drink purchased. Top 3 in every category wins a prize. You got 6 fish prize categories. And if your fish doesn't win, don't worry, because you can still win the grand prize by adding up all the totals of your fishes. 19 prizes in total. They'll also have a bucket of bobbers with some of the bobbers marked with winning dollar amounts. Buy a Twisted Tea or Sun Cruiser to get a pick of the bobbers. Sign up today. Go over there and sign up. And again, that's tomorrow, 1 to 4 p.m., just a $10 entry fee. We got about 11 minutes to the top, 12 minutes to the top or so. Let's talk some Brewers as we are now officially less than 3 weeks away from opening day, Brandon. Last night, the Brewers taking down the A's. I was going to say Oakland A's there for a second, but
they're not Oakland A's. They're not the Sacramento A's either. They're just the A's.
The A's. So Jacob Mizorowski with a nice performance last night. 3 innings, no hits, 3 strikeouts for the young pitcher that there's a lot of excitement around. But another pitcher had himself a nice night, and it's somebody that you have mentioned in the past as well. Yoho. Craig Yoho over there. But I was reading a little bit too. Changeup is kind of like that was.
Yeah, he's another changeup guy, and it's kind of been funny this spring, like seeing just different, Brewers media like talking about like, well, what's obviously because Devin Williams had the airbender. Well, what's the name of this? And I did like Kurt Hogue from the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel's idea. He called it the glitch. Because it just kind of looks like it looks like you're watching a stream and suddenly like it cuts out for a second just with the way it moves.
I like that. Yeah,
I like that name a lot. So, but yeah, great outing for Craig Yoho, and he's someone that he's a reliever. I mean, Jacob Mizorowski, there's still some question whether he's a starter or reliever. Craig Yoho's a reliever, but he has put up some insane numbers in the minor leagues, and then kind of going off some of the video, you also see that he's throwing this slider that looks pretty crazy as well. Like he's such a crazy story because he's a guy that wasn't a high draft pick. Like he was kind of I think he was a converted position player. He converted pretty.
I love hearing stories like that.
Yeah, like pretty late in the going, and he's just like, yeah, I guess I'll pitch, and then suddenly he's throwing this pitch that like very few people can throw. So I mean, he's someone that I don't know if he's going to break camp with the team. I mean, Pat Murphy after the game I talked about, he's like, well, when a guy throws like this, you take notice. But he's someone I could still see up within the first month or two of the season, and he's someone that he could be a heavy hitter in that bullpen pretty quickly.
Yeah, so good to see that. And again, don't know if we'll see them right away. Probably not. And part of that is the Jose Quintana signing, maybe.
Right, it's not as much of a necessity. Mizorowski, I think at this point, Mizorowski, they still want to give time to start, and that's something you can just do easier at AAA and just see, because I mean, all things being equal, you would like him to be a starter just because starters pitch more innings than relievers. But I think the team also knows in the back of their mind, okay, if for whatever reason the starting doesn't work out, you can throw him in the bullpen and you feel pretty good. I mean, his stuff is tailor made for the bullpen, but you want to still see if it can work as a starter.
So with the I feel like we've joked about this for the last few years, like just waiting for the day that Jose Quintana was actually going to sign with the Brewers, and lo and behold, it actually happened.
Right.
This year, a veteran left-hander coming in. Your reaction, your thoughts to when you heard that? Did you like the move? I mean, you look at this starting group now, Brandon. I mean, outside of Tobias Myers, it's a very veteran-heavy rotation.
Right, and yeah, I mean, I do like it. I mean, not just for, I mean, you look at the cost. I mean, at the start of the offseason, I think Fangraphs had, Quintana projected to make double what he made, and maybe even being able to land a 2-year deal somewhere. And, look, the Brewers, baseball offseason is very long. Yeah. And, we were, rightfully kind of taking them to task because they haven't really done anything in the free agent market. And then, I mean, Mark Hanna, a minor league deal, but someone that I think people believe is going to make the opening day roster. And now Jose Quintana, someone that, barring something unforeseen, we know will. I mean, he's a guy that is, he's not the pitcher he was when he pitched for the Cubs. He's not the high strikeout guy he was then. He's kind of morphed into this pitch to contact guy. But when you have the Brewers, defense behind you, that's not a bad place to be. And he's an innings eater. He's a guy that's just going to come in. I mean, and he's going to go 5 or 6 innings, and he knows how to pitch. his stuff isn't what it was, 6-7 years ago. He's not going to blow people away, but he's a guy that can get outs, that can pitch deep into games. Is going to, more often than not, take the ball every fifth day. And you mentioned just the rotation in general. It's a bit of a different look from last year, where at the start of the year, you had guys like Joe Ross, Jacob Junis,
Colin Ray,
DL Hall, and who were a little bit more unproven. This year, all these pitchers have kind of proven that they can be good major league pitchers. So it's just a bit of a different spot, and that's no guarantee of anything, but I think it's a position you feel a lot better about. And there's just less uncertainty there right now. And I just think it's good too, because look, we don't know the Brandon Woodruff timeline so far. Everything's been, positive from what we hear, but still, like, that doesn't mean he's going to be there opening day, just, ready to go. Right. There still might be a process beyond that. And now, injuries are going to happen, stuff's going to happen, but you don't necessarily, not that I don't think they were going to rush him, but you just don't have to feel that way if you've got a little bit more depth there. And if you get to say June or July and Brandon Woodruff is back and ready to go, and this is you still got the same guys, 5 guys in the rotation, like, that's a good problem to have. That's a problem I'm sure Pat Murphy would love to have.
I mean, look at last year. They went through 17 different starting
Right.
pitchers. So,
and
they would welcome that.
Yeah, you don't want to do that if you can help it. I mean, you don't want to have to try to, squeeze the last bit of out of somebody like Dallas Keuchel, like they had, they tried to last year. You want to be able to have some consistency there, and this is just going to add to what's hopefully a good, solid, dependable rotation. I also, it's getting another lefty in there, I think, is good too. I mean, you obviously Nestor Cortez already in there, but I always think it's important to whether it's your rotation or your bullpen, to be able to give opposing teams different looks.
So this might sound like a glass half empty outlook, and I'm not trying to make it this way, but like, part of me were, obviously the talent and the depth and the experience in that, but then the other part of me was thinking, okay, you throw in Nestor, you throw in Quintana and such. If the season's not going the way that they're hoping, and it's kind of evident that they're not going to go to the postseason, those are 2 guys that I could easily see being flipped to bring in a process, because they're in their. I mean,
right? They're on 1 year. They're free agents after this year,
right?
So like those,
everybody wants a starting
right,
veteran
and those
pitcher.
are both. Even if say they struggle, I mean, because you have to figure if the Brewers are out of the race, then maybe those guys aren't pitching. But those are still guys that teams are going to look at and say, hey, for whatever reason it's not clicking there, maybe it will here. Nestor Cortez, obviously, last year in the World Series didn't go well for him. I mean, I don't think he was put in a great situation, but still, like, those are 2 guys that if you're a team that's a contender, you look at and say, hey, you know what? We take a shot. I mean, in years past, those are guys that if the Brewers looked at, I'd be saying, okay.
Yeah. And then sense. On the flip side of that is, you look at last year, if those guys are healthy and they're still there, and you're in a position to be in the playoffs, that might be a position where you don't have to make any moves. Like last year, I mean, they tried the Dallas Keuchel thing, didn't work. They acquired Aaron Savali, who they still have, Frankie Montas. If those guys are playing well in that and they're healthy, that might be an area like, okay, we're good there. We don't have to look for a starting pitcher.
Right. And it just made sense in so many ways. And then plus there was just the added, it's just kind of funny because, because of obviously the history Jose Quintana has against the Brewers, like,
and he just has to play for the Reds, and then he's got the
right.
The whole thing,
He'd be the another Cesar Tours for your immaculate grid, where if you see 2 NL Central teams, you just know, okay, I can go with that guy.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, looking at this too, offense, I think, is still probably a big question. But Garrett Mitchell had a nice night last night too, and I know we kind of keep preaching, don't take everything for spring training, but you can look at
right. I mean, now we're
right?
a few weeks in, so I mean, to me, I always try to look for, like, maybe it's just the way I am, but I always try to, I look at more of like who's doing well than maybe who's struggling, because neither is really an indication of whether someone's going to be good or bad. But you mentioned, Garrett Mitchell, Jackson Scherzer had a good kind of a little bit quietly spring training too. He's just been really steady.
Yep.
The battle for that third base, I'm assuming at this point it's third base job. Oliver Dunn's done.
Capra, though, is the power right now, dude.
Capra, he's
4 home runs?
Yeah, he's making if he keeps going, he's going to force the team to make a decision.
Is he kind of like Eric Haas from last year?
Maybe. I mean,
you
just got somebody that's just trying to, make their way onto the team, like, kind of forcing the hand, because he's someone that, he doesn't have any options left.
Mm-hmm.
So, if he's going to be on, and I'm not sure if he's on the 40-man roster either, so they might have to make a spot for that too. But so, yeah, I mean, those are guys that are just kind of forcing their way onto the,
into the discussion at least.
Exactly.
So I mean, if we're talking about wanting power at that spot, you got a dude that's hit 4 home runs so far. So Babe Capra.
And somebody that can bop around the infield. I mean, that's not going to be a bad thing.
Yeah, because I mean, when he did play, wasn't he called up to play a little short or something?
Yeah, I think he's second baseman, shortstop, third baseman, guy that can play any of those spots. So
right. So hey, maybe, who knows, right? Never know at this point. But Durbin, have you kind of gotten? I mean, I know he got some action in last night.
His numbers have been his numbers have been kind of up or down, but he has hits for some power, and he's pulled the ball, and like, I do like kind of the skill set for him a little bit, because he's a guy that makes good contact. He's a guy that takes his walks, and he can obviously steal bases, and obviously that seems like that kind of fits in well with the Brewers. It's just a matter of where that slots in. But he's somebody that I think is going to be a name Brewers fans need to keep an eye on this year, especially early on, because I think he's making this ball club.
And I mean, I don't think, unless you think differently, but we may not have a clear picture yet on who's going to be shortstop, and then the trickle down effect.
No,
after that.
I think that'll be kind of maybe the last 2 weeks of spring training. That'll be kind of come to the forefront. Once. At this point, I still think it's very much the testing phase of like, okay, let's try it here, let's try it there, and then we'll see. But I think, let's put it this way, I don't think they're going to have them bopping back and forth the last 3 days of spring training and then saying, okay, well, I guess we got to make a decision now. Like,
right.
It's kind of like most years when you're figuring out the opening day starter, you kind of work backwards and you say, okay, this is kind of how it's looking based on what we're seeing, how things are lining up. And I just think we're, within the next week or two, we'll kind of learn that.
All right. Yeah. So less than 3 weeks away from opening day coming up here. So, all right. Coming up in the 8 o'clock hour, we'll talk some hoops because, well, we're wrapping up the regular season for the Badgers and Marquette tomorrow. And then we got conference tournament time and then the big tournament time. So we'll talk a little hoops. We got Cream of the Crop coming up next hour, but a new game that we're going to play every Friday too, called Pump the Brakes or Full Throttle, brought to you by AJM Automotive. So, Brandon, I'm going to ask you a couple questions, and I'm asking everybody else out there a couple questions, and you either have to say pump the brakes on that narrative or full throttle, full speed ahead. Understand the rules? Pretty simple,
I think so.
Right? So it's like yay or nay.
Yes.
I'll give you a statement. I'll give you a thumbs up, thumbs down, that sort of stuff. Threw one out in the first hour just to give people a heads up, but I've got a couple that I will throw out there, and I want you, the listeners, to participate. You can text it, tweet it, comment on the video streams, your answers. So we will do that right after we do Cream of the Crop to kick off the 8 o'clock hour. So shot clock is going to start ticking off right now. Perfect timing. We got one more to go. We got some news updates, and we'll be back to wrap up the final hour on this Friday morning in just a couple minutes. All right, final hour kicking off right now on this Friday morning. Hopefully, you're all off to a fantastic start. We've got a busy final hour coming at you, so we're going to jump right into it. We're going to play a new game coming up here in just a couple minutes. Pump the Brakes or Full Throttle, brought to you by AJM Automotive. So that's coming up here in a second. We're going to talk some college hoops, but we're going to kick it off with a little cream of the crop. All right, Brandon, who is your cream of the crop?
You know, somebody I kind of alluded to a few days ago. I'm going to go with Jack Janicki.
Okay.
The Badgers guard, preferred walk-on, has really played some big minutes here in recent games, including Wednesday's win over Minnesota. Like, he's somebody that I think, like, first of all, he's earned a scholarship here. There's going to be some turnover here after this season. Like, he's someone that's got to get a scholarship. But I didn't know, like, he had an offer from, like, Wake Forest and turned it down.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
I'd seen that somewhere, so I'm assuming.
Yeah.
If it's wrong, I apologize. But then obviously he's had to play some big minutes here these last few games with Max Klesmit being out. But just
busted teeth.
Let's say left part of a tooth in Minnesota, but White Bear Lake native. It's just somebody that, like, I don't know. I feel like after this year could really kind of ascend up that kind of depth chart pretty quickly. But for a guard, he's a bigger guard. He's 6'5", he's 200 pounds. The lefty, I don't know. There's just something to me about, like, a lefty shooter. The aesthetics of it are just awesome.
Yep.
But, like, he's just, I've been really impressed with what I've seen out of him, just kind of working his way into the rotation and, forcing Greg Gard to have to play him.
My cream of the crop actually just happened last night, Brandon, and I've got an audio clip. So I just want you to listen, and it's my cream of the crop. Okay. Audio courtesy from TNT. So there you go. That's my cream of the crop right there.
Yeah. A lot of truth
A lot
there
of
from
truth.
Charles.
I love how Chuck is like, yeah, we're gonna be working there. He
Yeah,
just doesn't
yeah.
hold back.
Yeah, he doesn't. He's not shying away from it. He's like, oh no, and
Nope.
obviously for those of you that may not know, the Inside the NBA group is going to be working with ESPN next year because TNT Turner's, they're losing the rights to the NBA, but they're keeping that group together just with ESPN. So yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But no, he's right. He's right though. Like
he is.
the things he said, especially the whole, Michael Jordan versus LeBron debate. Like to me, again, if I agree, like if you're putting that if you're spending time talking about that, it's just arguing for the sake of argument. You're not going to come to a conclusion one way or the other. You're just arguing.
Exactly.
It's empty calories.
For what it's worth, Kendrick Perkins did respond.
He did.
And said, "Hey, NBA on TNT might want to tell that senior citizen Charles Barkley that I'll be around." It's like, okay, here we go now. That I'll be around when he see an idiot or fool in person. Make sure he keeps that same energy. He can come playing with me if you want to, and I'm gonna address his butt like the numbers on a house, straight from the 409, homeboy. And we bar none and fade all. Hashtag Texas boy. And then Stephen A responded to saying, "Yo, Chuck, stop the BS with the y'all, attach a name to it. Once you come over here, there's going to be some folks waiting to call you a fool. You know I love you, though. See you all soon." I think Chuck's probably got more of a backing than
I think so.
I mean, we complain about it, about like, oh, they just nonstop Lakers.
There's certain teams that are always going to be the discussion points.
Yeah, and to an extent, I get. I mean, that's what they are, a very popular team,
and
right?
that's it. But still, there's a limit.
Yeah, and I think Chuck's absolutely right when he makes the case about Cleveland. I mean, how dominant they are in the Eastern Conference, for crying out loud. They're in first place by 8-9 games over Boston, and then Oklahoma City Thunder with all that young talent. Yeah. And they're dominant too with an 8-game lead and such. So that's my cream of the crop. I love Chuck. I love Chuck so much, and I'm gonna miss it whenever he does decide to call.
Right. I mean, we'll see.
And I love it when he was like on Dan Patrick a couple weeks ago when he was asking, well, where are you gonna go? He's like, I don't want to work more than one day a week or whatever it was. He's like, that's why he's not going to NBC, because he doesn't want to work more than whatever. And all right, truth, right?
Hey. If someone's going to pay you a bunch of money to work less,
yeah,
do it.
Yeah. So I just love that Shaq all the time, just in the corner. He's got his head down because he's laughing so hard between.
That's we've talked about this before, but that's just that group has just so much chemistry. It's like I'm not much of a ensemble studio show person anymore.
That's why
because there's just so many options.
Yeah.
There's great people out there, but they're I think we just consume sports media so much differently from how we did, obviously when we were younger.
Yep.
But that's one where it's just you can just tell the chemistry's there. And again, they're not afraid to rip on each other.
Especially those two.
You just feel like they're being honest, and
they're comfortable with that.
Yes.
And
Charles
and they don't take offense to
it. Charles flat said hey, if I'm wrong, I'll say I'm wrong.
Yeah. And when Shaq and Barkley get at it, they don't take offense to it where they hold grudges with each other. Then afterwards,
they just know that's kind of part of the deal.
Right. So, all right, let's take a quick break, and then we're going to play a little pump the brakes and full throttle. We'll do that. New game time coming up in just a couple minutes. think our countdown to the draft is like 48 days, somewhere around there, Brandon. 48. It's in the 40s now because I know it was 50 just a couple days ago. So we're getting close. Now it's kind of starting to hit, I think. I don't know about you, but it's starting to hit a little bit.
The last few weeks it really has, like with the combine, and then with kind of starting to get some things about the weekend coming into picture. Like it really has.
Yep. And again, we got to thank our listener and former Kasper Classic champion.
Now, is this like if you win the Kasper Classic, like, is this like a president thing where even if you're not the reigning champion, you're still a champion? Like even if you're not the acting president, you're still president.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
because he won a title belt.
Yeah.
So
okay. Yeah. So
Illini
Kasper
Greg.
Classic champion.
Yep.
Illini
Greg for helping us find a spot to do the program, and it's a pretty darn good one because where we're going to be doing it, we're going to be actually in a backyard, but facing the draft stage.
I'd say it's a stone's throw from the stage, but I can't throw that far. But that's more because I don't have a good arm, as opposed to like you can see it.
Yep. Yeah. So, and we are busy booking guests. I don't want to say anything yet because I don't want to jinx anything, but Brandon knows some of them and they're legit.
Yeah, this is going to be fun.
Yep, they're legit. So, people that you have heard of on national networks. So, going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait for it. All right, let's do some new game every Friday. First off, I gotta, where did it go?
So is there an intro?
Kind of. I got to change the color coding on this thing again. That's all I got right now. But every Friday, we're going to do Pump the Brakes or Full Throttle, brought to you by AJM Automotive. I'm going to give you a couple of statements, sports statements, and it's kind of like yay or nay, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah, definitely go full steam ahead, or, hey, dude, pump the brakes a little bit sort of thing. So one of them is Packer related, I know. So, but I want to throw this one out there because we've heard some rumors out there. Well, not rumors, or reports now. A couple of big time players want trades, or they're looking to get out of Dodge. DK Metcalf has officially requested a trade. And then yesterday, news that the Bengals have granted Trey Hendrickson's representation to seek a trade partner. So I ask you and I want listeners to participate in this too. Okay. So your first statement. The Packers should prioritize trading for Trey Hendrickson over DK Metcalf. Pump the brakes or full throttle?
I'm going to say full throttle.
Yeah.
I think that the value for getting edge pressure is big. I mean, he's someone that, he had the one big year with the Saints and parlayed into a big deal with the Bengals, but then he was legit with the Bengals. So and he's a couple years older than DK, but I feel like that's a position where you can, you can trade for him and you're still going to get good production. I just think right now you got more. There's more things you can do I think you have more options to improve your receiver group than you do your edge rusher group. So I would say full steam ahead on that, even though I would not like to see that as a Vikings fan.
Yeah, so I know, like, if they were to trade for Trey Hendrickson and acquire him, you're going to have to give him a new deal too. And when you factor in Rashawn Gary's there, Lucas Van Ness is the first round pick. Kenny Clark's got a deal over there too. That's going to be a lot of money invested. And I understand that, but at the same time, it is clearly a weakness on this ball club with the pass rush. So I'm full throttle on it too. Like, that is clearly you get a guy who's been consistent and you keep hearing, hey, we want to rush with 4. We want to rush with 4. That is your biggest weakness on the defense. I get it. You have a lot of money invested. Some of that money, bad investments. But if this to me would be a good investment because we got a little bit more of a sample size and proof, and I think that would instantly improve that group. So yeah, I'm full throttle on that.
And with assuming that at some point the Browns come around to trading Myles Garrett, like that's almost like that second tier. And that's no disrespect to Trey Hendrickson, it's just that Myles Garrett might be the best edge rusher in the NFL.
Right.
Like maybe, we'll see if maybe
that's
a little bit more realistic.
Yeah, because Max Crosby got that new deal, and it's big. But they're saying, Yeah, but it's going to get beat probably this offseason.
Oh, sure.
By another edge rusher, whether it's TJ Watt or Myles Garrett, something like that too. So, all right, baseball one for you, Brandon, because it's been kind of a talking point in the last couple weeks here. There will never, ever be another 300-game winner in MLB history.
I actually had this conversation with somebody, I think it was last week. I'm going to pump the brakes just because of the numbers. Like the numbers and the odds say that there probably will be.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand the rationale because with, maybe they're not being the longevity with starters anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That, there's not going to be that person that consistently wins 15 games for 15 years.
Mm-hmm. Because, a lot of the talk is Verlander is the closest active one, but he's up there in age. And I think he's at 264, 262, somewhere around there. And I don't know if he's going to get
that.
Scherzer's got 212 or something. I don't think he's going to get that either. So, that's because you're hearing a lot of the Verlander. Is he going to be the last one? And what's the other one? Is it like strikeouts or something like? Is there another
2000 or 3000 maybe?
Yeah,
3000 probably.
Yeah, I think it's 3000. But you look at the active list, and it's there's Verlander's 40th right now at 262 wins, and I don't think he gets to 300.
No, I don't either. That's like 38.
Yeah,
so that's 3 years. Like, I don't know if he's got 3 years left.
He's 42 years old.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So
obviously, hey, we know Nolan Ryan did it, but Nolan Ryan is the exception in many, many ways.
Mm-hmm. The thing is, I keep thinking of one guy, and it's Paul Skeens. And I know it's only been 1 year into it, but I almost feel like it's got to be that guy that can stay healthy. And the thing is, Verlander, I know, just had Tommy John, was it a couple years ago too, but I think if you asked a lot of people who would be the next pitcher to do it that's currently playing, I think a lot of people would probably pick Paul Skeens just because of the arrow is so high.
The arrow,
on him.
Obviously it's trending up. The only thing with Skeens or people in his situation is you got to be on a good team for a long time.
That's true too. Yeah.
Because you could be an awesome pitcher.
Yep.
But you could have a 2004 Ben Sheets year.
Yep.
Where he doesn't get the run support, and you're 13 and 14, and you can be amazing.
What was that? Didn't Jacob DeGrom have a record like that with the Mets on one side?
Yeah, like you need to. It's almost like you need to be. It's almost like you got to be like a Roki Sasaki situation where, as a young age, you are blossoming with this elite team, and you're going to have the longevity over long term, and that's a lot of boxes that someone's got to check. Not sure there's many people out there that are going to be capable of doing it, and that's just not something that is as prized as it might have been 20 years ago.
Scherzer's got 216. Clayton Kershaw has 212. Those are your three highest active players. The next person, I'm trying to scroll through this list, and I'm telling you, like Kershaw is 96, tied for 96. And I'm on Pro Baseball Reference right now, and there is a huge Garrett Cole's at 250, and he's got 153 wins. That's the next one. That's the next one on there. So Lance Lynn then is out here at 143. I think I might say Full Throttle on this. You kind of made that I was gonna say pump the brakes, but then when you said, hey, you got to be on a good team too with those wins, and that kind of like maybe solidified it for me to, I think that's gonna be Full Throttle for me, because you're right. Paul Skeens is a fantastic pitcher, but is Pittsburgh going to win a lot of games? I don't know.
Just look at the math. If you win 15 games a year, which is solid, you got to do it 20 years.
Yeah.
Then there's going to be some years where you're above that, you're 18, 19, 20 wins, but there's also going to be some years where you're below that, where you might have an injury.
Yeah. Yeah. Jose Quintana is 604, and he's got 102, and he's still one of the guys that are up there for current active. I don't see it happening at this point. I don't. So I got one more here for you, Brandon. And because we are getting closer to the tournament, college basketball season, one of the best times of the year. I know we've had this debate. Is this like, to me, March into April April's the best month for me.
April's my favorite sports month. March is obviously pretty high up there for a number of reasons, but Yeah,
because I kind of put March Madness into April because you got Final Four.
I mean, the Final Four and the championship game are usually that first of April, in that first week of April. So yeah, that's fair.
Masters, baseball's beginning. You still got hoops and
We
hockey.
got the draft. Preamble.
So I mean, you got all that stuff going on here too. But I am gonna do. We got oh, I just got sidetracked here. College basketball, I'm sorry, got sidetracked here. I got people sending me weird stuff here, so this is why I need a producer, so I don't get these texts
fine.
And all that. All right. Duke will be the most popular pick when it comes to a national champion for brackets.
Yeah, I'll go ahead with that. I mean, they're not the number one team, but they're a well-renowned. I mean, they're a national brand. They've got the best player in the country, and and let's be real. A lot of times with like bracket picks, you do have more casual fans. They're going to see Duke ranked pretty highly, and they're going to say, "Oh, okay, I'll go with them." So yeah, no, I'm full speed ahead on that.
I think they're gonna. Yeah, I'm full throttle on that. I think they are going to be the most popular pick. Just because when you look at it, Auburn's probably going to be a 1 seed, even though they did lost the other day. And they'll probably be a popular one too. But when you look at the teams that are going to be, 1 or 2 seed or 3 seed, and people see Duke on there, yeah, it's going to be Duke. And it's not a knock on Duke's been good, and you got Cooper Flag,
right,
there's all that. So
yeah, there's reasons for it, but they're going to get the benefit of the doubt from a lot of people.
They are, and I don't know if credit to John Shire. What's the old phrase? You don't want to be the guy that replaces a legend.
You don't want to be the guy that follows the guy.
Yep. So, credit to him for the job that he's doing. But I don't know if I'm ready to. A lot's going to be dependent on seedings and matchups and such too. So I don't. It's hard to pick a winner right now, and I don't want to say Duke or the field because I feel like this is a pretty deep field.
Yeah,
I really feel like this is a deep field. I'll say full throttle on the Duke thing, but going into college basketball now we're starting to wrap up this regular season and that you look at this, is it fair to say, Brandon, that you can make the case for a dozen teams to win the national championship this year? At least a dozen?
In that ballpark, I would say. I mean, the SEC has kind of been flexing its muscle. Like there's always teams that are going to pop up. So yeah, I would say in that ballpark, yes. It's not like we've seen the last couple of years where it was kind of almost UConn versus the field, especially after their first title.
Let's go Auburn, yeah, Duke, yeah, Houston, yeah, Tennessee, yeah, Florida, yeah, St. John's, I think I could, Alabama, Michigan State, Texas Tech, Iowa State, Clemson, Wisconsin's your dozen if we go with the AP rankings.
Are you going to make the case for Wisconsin?
I
think
would you be surprised if they went to the Elite Eight?
I mean, a little bit, just based on the fact that they haven't done it in a while, but that doesn't mean they can't. Just because you haven't done something before doesn't mean you can't now, or you haven't done it in a while. But I will say, though, in their defense, like, generally, I forget the exact number, but it's like, if you want to win a national championship, you got to be like top 10 offense and Ken Pom rankings and like top 30 defense. And Wisconsin right now does fit that threshold.
Yeah. Highest score, one of the highest scoring teams in the nation, top in the free throw percentage. I mean, all the credit. Greg Gard is rightfully getting a lot of credit.
He was another one. I had seen it earlier this week. Kind of stated better than I could, but like just how much he's overhauled what he does and how he does it. Like, to me, that's a sign of a great coach. And I've been critical of Greg Gard over the years, but kind of embracing kind of what Kirk Penny's brought to the table as far as overhauling the offense and getting the players that fit it.
Seth Davis said something to that fact. I don't know if that's
maybe that's who it was then. I remember I'd seen it, but I didn't quite remember who. But
yeah, let me see if I can find it here quick. Maybe not. Somebody texted, somebody drinking a beer. No, it's Brandon drinking water.
I'm drinking water.
They can hear you drinking water.
No, that's the ice rattling.
Yeah, it was Seth Davis because Doug Gottlieb actually said something about Greg Gard doesn't get the credit that he, I think, rightfully deserves and such. And Seth Davis had retweeted, and Seth Davis still with CBS, right? With college basketball, is he still over there? I don't know.
So,
because he's always on, like when tournament time is whenever I see Seth Davis. I know he used to be with Sports Illustrated, I think, back in the day. But, anyways, he had said, for guard to be so willing to make such drastic changes at this state of his career is a valuable lesson for all of us on leadership and life. Always have a beginner's mind. And I'm not trying to compare the two, but like when you said that, when you're talking about guard and the adaptability and such, it's a lot of stuff we said about Andy Reid, right? A guy at that stage of his career, and he's up there in age. He's been doing it for a long time, and yet he seems like he just adapts every single year. And he's not stuck in his laurels, and he's not stuck in his, like, this is the way I've always done it. This is the way I'm going to, like, for whatever reason, a lot of coaches do. I don't know if it's ego or what. But I think you give a lot. I mean, now he's got another kid from New Zealand coming over, part of the 2026 class. I hope there's a team that's not paying attention, be like, ooh, we got to get Kirk Penny as our head coach so we can do this. That's what I'm actually a little bit nervous about.
Yeah.
But going to the tournament, I am actually confident Wisconsin, because what does everybody say? It's guard play. And right now, their guards are balling.
Yeah.
The only thing that would give me pause is if they're going up against a really good team with the bigs, and I don't trust Stephen Crow.
Right.
But I trust the Johns.
Yes.
Blackwell and John Tanji.
Right. And if nothing else, it just looks different this year for the Badgers, because how many years has it been like the high-level defense and kind of the workman light offense? And obviously, when you had like Johnny Davis in there, you had a transcendent player in there.
Mm-hmm.
But this does just like, it just feels like you've kind of shuffled the deck with this team a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, well, let's see what the hand that they're dealt is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe I'm getting my hopes up a little bit too much with this team, but I think if they get some good matchups and some good seedings, what's the minimum? I think the minimum is Sweet 16.
It has to be. Like,
I think it has to be.
And that's the thing though. Like, if you don't get out of the first weekend this year, again, because it was 2017.
I think it wasn't at Greg Gard's second year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because 2016, I think they lost to Notre Dame. I think 2017 was the Florida game.
Okay, is that when they beat Villanova and they were the 8th seed in the second round? Because everybody's
I think that was the year before.
Was it?
Regardless. Right. Regardless, like I believe it was 2017. So that's 8 years.
Yeah.
If they were to lose shy of the goal this year. And I mean, assuming that they don't, poo the bed here, there's a decent chance that if they're that 2 seed or a 3 seed, like they could end up playing in Milwaukee, which happened a few years ago. And obviously they lost to Iowa State. So that didn't help their cause, like in that way, but it's still a good thing.
Yep.
If you can get that, you want that, because that's going to be an unquestioned home court advantage.
Yeah. Did Lou Lenardi update his bracket? Because I mean, we had some upsets this week.
Yeah, I haven't seen when the most recent bracketology was.
Because I know it's still the 4th. Let me bring it up. No, he actually did update it 5 minutes ago. Perfect timing. Because I want to see where he's got, so Auburn's still a 1, Duke is still a 1, Houston's a 1, Florida is now a 1, which is no surprise because they just beat, was it Alabama earlier in the week here? Michigan State's a 2, Alabama's a 2, Tennessee's a 2, and Texas Tech is a 2. Wisconsin so Iowa State's a 3, St. John's is a 3, Wisconsin's a 3, and Texas A&M is a 3. Oh, I don't know if I'd like this one, Brandon. So if Wisconsin were to beat, if we use this as the bracket, Wisconsin faces Chattanooga in a 3-4
the
team.
Mocs.
They would play the winner between St. Mary's or Arkansas.
St. Mary's is always a team I feel like I pick in the tournament, but they don't win.
Well, maybe you should do that for.
Maybe I should put the jinx on. The Gales.
Man, so they would be in the West. Open up at Milwaukee with their games, Wisconsin. This is where Florida would be the 1 seed. The 2 seeds, Texas Tech. 3 is Wisconsin. 4 is Kentucky. 5 is Michigan. Interesting. I mean, I'd still probably pick Wisconsin to get to the Sweet 16 if it was St. Mary's or Arkansas. them going up against Texas Tech. That'd be a good one, I think, to get to the Elite Eight. I think, okay. You said the minimum is Sweet 16. Should the minimum be Elite Eight? Or do you think it's right at Sweet 16?
I think it's right at Sweet 16 still.
Okay. What if they win the Big Ten Conference Tournament? Does that change it at all for
Maybe
you?
a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I reserve the right to change my opinion when new facts are presented. So,
Nice.
but it might. I mean, especially if they beat like a Michigan State, who on Sunday they had their opportunities, but they were just kind of stone cold from three.
Fair to say, though, that there's at least when we get to the Big Ten Conference Tournament next week, you can make the case for 6 teams to win that.
Yes.
At least a half a dozen.
I mean, you still don't know the top 4. Like
Yeah.
we know that Michigan State's the regular season champ, but
Mm-hmm.
you know the Badgers are still in that fight to try to get that double bye
Mm-hmm.
to be in the top 4, so they can jump all the way to Friday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can't wait for that conference tournament.
It's gonna be fun.
And that goes. I know I brought it up the other day too, because it gets brought up every year. Do you want to win it? If you're that team, because you're usually the last one on Sunday to play, and then you got the turnaround. So
Thursday or Friday, and it's intense.
It's
like,
gonna,
it's physically, you're physically observe. I'm trying to find the right word for this. You're using a lot. Let's put it that way.
Exertion.
Exertion. That's the word. You're working really hard those days.
Mm-hmm. And that's going to be talked about.
Yes, because you can make the case for yes, because you want to win all the games you play, but also momentum
and I think a lot's going to depend on too. Like, okay, say Michigan State wins the Big Ten Conference Tournament, is that enough then to move them to a 1 seed if they're at a 2 right now? If they win it, do they get bumped up? Does that matter that much from a 1 to 2? Does it? I mean, regionally, maybe a little bit if you go all chalk that way. It might mean more for a team like Illinois, who I think could be a dangerous team, because I don't know where Lenardi has them now, but earlier on they were a 7 seed, and I'm like, that's a dangerous 7 seed because I mean that stretch they were sick and hurt, and what they just did to Michigan, a few days ago. Like, okay, he still has Illinois as a 7. So, I mean, if Illinois wins the Big Ten Conference Tournament, I would imagine they move up a couple spots. Otherwise, if they stay at 7, Tennessee would have to play them in the second round. And if I'm Tennessee, I'm a little nervous.
A lot of orange.
Not the best color man in the business there, Monty. Jeez Louise. All right, let's take our break, and we'll do some picks and predicts, including some of these college games coming up tomorrow. Badgers play tomorrow. Marquette plays tomorrow. Bucks play tomorrow night. We'll hit all that up coming up after these quick words. Let's wrap up these shenanigans on this Friday morning with some picks and predicts brought to you by the Elbow Room, located right here in Eau Claire. Hey, also, don't forget, too, I know, this Sunday will be a week from Selection Sunday, but you can pre-sign up, pre-register for our bracket challenge right now at our website, sportstalk1051.com. Just click on the Fan Cave tab and sign up now. And then obviously when the brackets are released a week from this Sunday, you can start to make your picks. Let's begin in the NBA world with some games for tonight, Brandon. Minnesota at Miami.
I am going to go with Minnesota.
I will go with the T-Wolves. Let's do Phoenix at Denver.
Denver.
I'll go Denver. The Knicks at the Clippers.
Clippers.
Clippers are favored by 7.5.
Oh, it's a bit much.
I'm going to go Knicks, coming back from their OT loss last night to the Lakers. Saturday games. Let's go with Lakers at Boston.
You think some people will be talking about that? I'm going to go with Lakers.
I'm going to go Boston. Who are you, Kendrick Perkins over there?
401 represent, whatever it was.
409.
409. Yeah. Giddy up, 409.
Detroit at Golden State.
I'm going to go Detroit.
They're sneaky this year.
Detroit basketball.
I'm going to go Golden State. Orlando at Milwaukee.
I'm going to go Milwaukee.
Yeah, I'm going Milwaukee too. And then some games on Sunday. Denver at OKC.
OKC.
I'm going OKC. We will do Memphis at Dallas.
I'm going to go Memphis because it'd be hard for me to pick Dallas.
Or not Memphis. I'm sorry. Back up. Phoenix at Dallas.
Phoenix.
I'm going Phoenix too. The big one on Sunday, that 4-letter network that Barkley begrudgingly will probably have to work for next year has to talk about this team because they're on that station. Otherwise, you can listen to it on the radio dials here. Cleveland at Milwaukee.
I'm going Milwaukee.
Ooh. I'm going Cleveland. Just they're a machine, dude. San Antonio at Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Minnesota too. So let's move to college basketball, shall we? I know we got some conference tournaments that are going on. I know Horizon Milwaukee lost last night, so UW Milwaukee's out of it. They actually got upset.
Yeah, they were like third or fourth in the conference standing. So yeah, they got knocked out. Yeah,
by Oakland, who was the 6th seed.
Not Oakland. That's the team from last year, wasn't it?
Oakland, Michigan.
Yeah, Oakland, Michigan, the team that knocked off Kentucky.
And they were under 500 this year. So let's go to Saturday's games. We got some good ones. Number 19, Kentucky at number 15, Missouri.
Missouri loves company. I'll take Missouri.
I'll go Missouri too. Number 6, St. John's at number 20, Marquette.
I'm going to go St. John's.
St. John's to me is
it's a fun one though.
Marquette's coming off their loss against UConn. St. John's is just rolling, and I think the thing now for St. John's is going to be, I'm not worried about Rick Pitino. Those players, a lot of attention on them. Bullseyes on them now, something they're not used to. How do they handle that? I'm still going to go with St. John's for this one. We will do South Carolina at Tennessee.
Tennessee.
We will do Iowa State at Kansas State.
Iowa State.
I'm going to go Iowa State as well. Alabama at Auburn. No, not football, basketball. Alabama and Auburn both coming off losses, though.
Auburn.
I'm going to go Auburn, too.
War Darn Eagle.
Texas A&M at LSU at Pete Maravich Assembly Center.
A&M.
Yeah, I'm going to go A&M. Let's Arizona at Kansas.
Arizona.
I'm going to go Kansas. It's at the field house, but I'm not confident in that. I'm going to go Kansas. Duke at North Carolina.
Doesn't got the same punches it has some years. I'll go Duke.
Yeah, I'm going to go Duke too. Let's do, and I'm saving this one, obviously. Let's do Houston at Baylor.
Houston.
Yeah, Houston's defense is legit right now. Utah at BYU.
You can stay in bed. I'm going to go BYU.
BYU. And then Penn State, Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, I'm going to go Wisconsin too. And then Sunday, we'll do some because we got Michigan at Michigan State.
I'm going to go Michigan State.
Mich State. Let's do Iowa at Nebraska.
Nebraska.
You got to pick one of these corn
Nebraska
teams.
Ball.
Yeah, we got to pick one of these corn teams. I'm going to go Nebraska. Is this the final? No, it won't because they got the tournament, but Trey McCaffrey, you think he's done after this year?
It's not like he wants to be back, but I thought Iowa was in a spot where they might not make the tournament.
Yeah,
because I think they were in danger of being one of those bottom 3 teams.
That's right. So
I thought they were in a little bit of a tough spot there. So,
Minnesota at Rutgers.
Rutgers, even though Minnesota's been playing well lately, but I'm gonna go Rutgers.
I'm gonna go Rutgers too. So, all right, those are your picks and predicts. Brought to you by the Elbow Room. Had no idea it was today. I feel like, again, in the past, we would have been just hounded with this stuff. It's apparently pro day for the Badgers, for Badger football. So,
well, I mean, there's not, maybe this year, there's just not that many top
Badger
players. I mean, you've got Hunter
Wohler, who's had a good Senior Bowl, had a good combine.
Yeah,
so.
Tackle. I'm trying to think of his name. Jack Nelson.
Yeah,
Jack Nelson.
Tackle, yeah.
He'll probably be like a day 3 pick.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just not many out there.
Hunter's going to be a day 2, you think, probably, right?
He
really improved his stock.
He did a lot of favors for himself with his athletic testing. I think there's kind of those stereotypes out there about, like a Wisconsin safety, like, maybe not the most athletically gifted in the world, but he tested well. So, I mean, I would say day 3 for sure. I mean, he could creep into the back. I mean, I can see him creeping in the 3rd round.
Yeah. And then you got, Jack Chaney's in there too. So, but, there's former Badgers that I'm really curious about. Chamari DK, who ran that sub 4.40. So, Packers need a returner if that's somebody over there. But, yeah, pro day today. So, there you have it. We'll see if anybody can maybe improve their stocks. I'm sure there will be Packers representation. So if you do have social media, there will probably be maybe even Goody himself will be down in Madison for that. But all right, what else? We got Bucks back in action tomorrow night. They're playing some good hoops right now, Brandon. This Bucks team that's currently, when you look at the Eastern Conference standings, in 4th, game ahead of the Pacers. 3.5 back from the Knicks. The final quarter of the regular season. We're in the final quarter of the regular season here for the Milwaukee Bucks. Do you feel better with what you have seen with this? Can we call it the new version with Kyle Kuzma? We got to throw Kevin Porter Jr. into this. That might be the better trade of all the, because they went. It was a swap of Marjon Beauchamp and Kevin Porter Jr. Beauchamp played what? A hot minute for the Clippers. They released him. He's with the Knicks, I think, now. Kevin Porter Jr. is coming off of a triple-double, coming off the bench, and that might be the better trade when you kind of look at what you got in return and such. But Kuzma has been fantastic for them. It sure looks like they've won those trades.
And I think you can also throw some credit out there for Jericho Sims.
Yeah,
he's played minutes. Like he's not. I mean, obviously he's not a scorer. He's not a guy, but
filling in for Bobby Portis.
Yeah, but he's athletic, so he's not an eyesore out there for you. He's not somebody that when he's out on the floor, teams are going to be attacking offensively.
Yep.
So the early returns on the moves the Bucks made, even if they might have been a bit underwhelming at the time, like the early returns are good.
You feel better about this team now?
A little bit, yeah.
Getting into the postseason, I do. I still think it's really important. Health, of course, that's going to be a thing. I think they need that home court in the 1st round, though.
Yeah.
So at bare minimum, they got to be that 4. And it might be the Pacers, it might be the Pistons, because it's there's like 5 tiers in the Eastern Conference. Cleveland's in a tier by himself just because of how dominant they've been in the gap between them and Boston. Then it's like Boston and the Knicks for me. It's tier 2. Then it's maybe the Bucks can get up there, but right now it's Bucks, Pacers, Pistons in the 3rd tier. Then the 4th tier is those other teams that are in the 7 through 10 range, and then it's just the bottom in the East because you see these gaps with everything. And maybe the Bucks can get up into that boss, but they got to play a little catch up.
Work to do.
But I'm feeling better. I am feeling better about them. It's weird when you look at these standings, though, too, across. I mean, Oklahoma City, 10.5 games ahead of the Lakers, who are second. First of all, I think it is a little surprising to say that the Lakers are in second, but the fact that OKC is 10.5 games ahead of them from first to second, and then you look at the top 10 teams in the West, so all playoff teams, they're all winning records. So even though you've got this huge gap between first and second, the top 10 all have winning records. You can't say that about the East, which we've said that for how many times, because 7 through 10 all have losing records in the East. And that's why I say the tiers, because Detroit's in the 6th spot, but they're 35-28. So, I mean, there's a gap, so that's why you got like these 5 gaps between the two. And even Brooklyn, who's the 11th seed, they're 4.5 out from that 10th spot. So I don't know. Like that, I think people would hate this matchup, but if I can't pick the Bucks, I wouldn't mind a Cavs and OKC.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the NBA, that's not the most nationally prominent matchup, but I think it would be a very good matchup.
Mm-hmm. Younger talent. Yes, Donovan Mitchell, Shai Gilgeous, those are going to be the two. But you look, Garland's with Cavs. I mean, Chet Holmgren. I mean, all those guys. So I think it'd be fun. I'd enjoy that one.
Yeah.
But they're probably salivating again at Boston and Lakers potential NBA finals. LeBron's back in it. Luka's back at the finals, and of course Boston trying to defend the title and such. So that, or maybe a Knicks and Lakers. Get the two coasts. Then you got a repeat of like World Series, LA and New York.
Yeah.
But no, I don't want to see that. So, all right, Brandon, again, we've got a busy nights and weekend for local stuff.
Sure do.
Do you know your schedule yet? Are you still kind of figuring things out where you're going to be at?
Pretty sure tonight I'm going to be in Bloomer for Bloomer boys basketball regional semis against Adams Friendship.
Okay.
And then tomorrow I know I'm obviously going to be in Altoona for McDonald Durand Arkansas girls basketball. Depending on the timing there. I mean, the rest of my day just going to depend on obviously how that schedule ultimately works out and what else is going on.
Yeah.
But I'll be working. I can tell you that. I know that.
A lot of whether it's high school, we've got college stuff. Again, softball's in action for the Blue Golds. The men's hockey team playing for a Y championship and a spot in the national tournament going up against River Falls. That's going to be at Hobbs. So you got that stuff going on. If you want to check out a sporting event, you've got plenty of options. We know boys basketball tonight and tomorrow too. So thank you to all like the bus drivers
drivers, officials.
Mm-hmm. The schools that open up the gyms that
schools that are hosting, have the volunteers that are helping there, doesn't go without you.
Yep, exactly. Monday, Brandon. Monday's the day, though.
Monday is the first day this off season that agents will talk with prospective free agents. They have not spoken at all. They were not talking at the combine. They were not having a chat over a cold drink at one of the many establishments in downtown Indianapolis.
St. Elmo's, yep.
That absolutely was not happening.
Nope.
But the amazing thing is 30 seconds after the quote-unquote tampering period opens, Adam Schefter's going to have a tweet that somebody's come to an agreement on a deal with somebody.
Dude, you're being modest. It'll be 10 seconds, not 30. It'll be 10.
It's amazing how quickly those can come together when they are totally not talking before the tampering period. It's amazing how fast these people work.
It's legal negotiation period. That is the proper term now.
I prefer tampering.
I do too. Yeah, I mean, okay, before I let you go, Brandon, you got a minute. Is Darnold back with you guys?
I'm going to say no, but the odds are a lot higher than I thought a week ago. And if it's a short-term deal, I don't mind it. Because to me, the most important thing no matter what is you need to make sure J.J. McCarthy's ready.
Yeah.
When he hits the field, it needs to be because Kevin O'Connell and that group say, you know what? It's his time. We feel good. He's ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
There's optimism that he'll be back for off-season workouts and stuff, but he still has not gone through a full season physically.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's still only 22 leads me to believe like you don't have to rush it. He could sit this year, be the starter next year, and still be a year younger than both Jane Daniels and Michael Penix were this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think you can afford, if the market doesn't blow up as much as maybe some people thought for Sam Darnold, I think there's a route where he comes back.
Aaron Jones?
I'm gonna say yes. I think they bring back Aaron Jones and then they pair him with like a day 2 running back.
Mm-hmm. You surprised Aaron Jones hasn't re-signed yet? Or is he getting his value?
I think he's probably, not that his agent would be talking with other teams, but I think he's looking to see, what's out there. Because like if there's, at this point he's probably working year to year, but if there was like a team like Denver that was like, we'll give you a 2-year deal.
Yeah.
You gotta listen.
Yeah. Or maybe somewhere down in Dallas.
Down in the heart of Texas?
Yeah, where he's from.
Where he's from, yeah, that's possible too.
So, all right, looking forward to Monday. That's going to be fun. Get ready for the fake accounts, though.
Yes, always. Media literacy is important, is a thing, people.
Mm-hmm. All right, you crazy peeps. Have a good weekend. DP Dance are up next. We'll be back at it, though, Monday morning, 6 a.m. We'll talk to you then.